Yo, Shortbox Nation, this is Botter, and I'm here to tell you right now that con season starts early this year with the return of Northeast Florida's premier anime, comic book, and sci-fi event, Collective Con. That's right, Northeast Florida's largest pop culture convention returns for its 10th year on March 8th through the 10th at the Prime Osborne Center in Jacksonville, Florida. 10 years of Collective Con, they're pulling all the stops out to make sure this is a can't-miss event. And the guest list they got going, don't even get me started on the guest list. I mean, they've got A-list celebrity guests and voice actors from some of your favorite movies, anime, and video games like Elijah Wood and Sean Ashton, Ray Park, Trisha Helfer, Ross Marquand, Max Middleman, and Bo-Katan herself will be there, Katie Sackhoff. Tell me what other convention is giving you the opportunity to meet Frodo and Sam from Lord of the Rings, Darth Maul, and One Punch Man all under the same roof. Only at Collective Con. And if you're looking to get some of your favorite comics signed, or if you want to get an original sketch from some of the best comic artists in the world, well, you're in luck, because there'll be plenty of comic and creator guests there, like DC comic artist extraordinaire Clay Mann, Harvey Award-nominated illustrator John Taylor Christopher, Marvel and DC cover artist Chris Stevens, and acclaimed Star Wars author Timothy Zahn. They'll all be at Collective Con this year. And if you're looking to bring the family, or if you want to make a weekend out of it, you're in luck, because there'll be so much going on at Collective Con that weekend in the form of vendors, fan panels, video game tournaments, cosplay contests, after parties, and a bunch of fan events. You can purchase single and 3-day weekend passes now using the link in this episode's show notes, or by going to collectivecon.com to book your tickets and hotel. Buy your tickets now, and I'll see you at Collective Con, March 8th through the 10th. Now let's start the show.
Hi, I'm Stanley. Stanley. I'm here with one of the top talents in the comic book business, Jim Lee. Jim, it's great to see you.
How do you do, Sam?
Jim Lee. Jim Lee. Jim Lee.
How many times growing up in the 80s and 90s did you copy his art in your sketchbook? I know I did. He's a penciler, inker, colorist, writer, editor, and few are capable of surpassing his efforts. His patrons throughout the years have made him a legend. So, this episode will make it an honor. And now, the artist spotlight shines on the one, the only, Jim Lee.
You don't want the standard backgrounds and buildings. You want something fantastic. You want to excite the readers with stuff they've never seen before.
Boom. That was it. That shit was
really good.
fucking sick.
It's very adult,
You did the music drop?
That was great.
Adult Swim.
Jim Lee. Jim Lee.
It was Parrish's beat.
Oh,
I just
okay.
spliced in cuts.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Of Stan and Jim talking.
Nah, he's good. That boy good. That boy good when he good. All right, let me go ahead and get started. Let's start. Yo, Short Box Nation.
What a subdued yo after the last thing we just talked about. He was like,
which no one will ever hear.
No!
Unless you subscribe to our Patreon.
That was good.
Fix it in post.
Yeah. Short Box Nation, welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 348, and if Cesar's fantastic introduction didn't clue you in already, we'll be spending the better part of this episode celebrating the career of one of the most revered and respected artists in American comics, Jim Lee. And if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the show. You picked one hell of an episode to start your short box journey with, and we're happy to have you with us. My name is Botter Milligan, and I'm just one of the hosts that will be entertaining you on today's episode. I'm joined by the full crew today, so that should tell you how excited we are to bring you this one. Allow me to introduce my co-host joining me today. He's not calling in today, I'll tell you that much. Because he's
studio.
In studio appearance.
It's not going to be a habit.
I know. I was shocked.
He's my right-hand man. And after that introduction you were just treated to, he'll also be known as the Steven Spielberg of podcast intros going forward. Let's give it up for Cesar Cordero.
Annyeonghaseyo, Jim Lee. Saranghayo.
Senor Spielbergo.
Saranghayo, Jim Lee.
Non-union Mexican counterpart.
That means I love you, Jim Lee. Hire me, because these busters are freaking killing me over here.
The real talent of this show, though.
Oh, wait, all of you are like that. The most old response. Ed, I expect it from you. Botter?
I had nothing to say.
He was like,
Wait,
you're wearing nothing but Ashley, oh my God, I see it.
What?
sitting where you're sitting right now,
come
Ashley,
on, please.
not only do I see Spider Gooch, but I also see Potter's socks are on full display.
Come on now.
He doesn't even care because listeners.
Look, I've been recording you motherfuckers so long. I don't care.
I never see it. I'm always like on a different angle, and now all I see are these freaking.
Well, it's better
weird...
than the Crocs,
Right?
It is
just bizarre.
I don't wear Crocs either.
Look, I know this is a weird tangent, but for those who are listening,
oh my god,
this is the weirdest experience.
I wish you would have called in.
Just hit that mute.
I wish it.
I'm not kidding. It's so strange. Like you're wearing like just the most high wateriest of pants, and
I'm bending my knees.
I'm assuming they're Black Panther.
Yes, they're Black Panther stand socks.
Okay.
Can I just please introduce Ashley?
No, but Ashley, I am your advocate today. All right,
Welcome to my world.
Thank you. This is
Do you remember
Here
the
we
day
go.
with the Cyclops socks? I couldn't get over it. That's why.
Now I understand.
I was staring at them for 2 hours.
Butter, you see what I'm saying? I'm helping you. I'm helping you. This is a segue to Ashley. This is a segue.
We're gonna put a little curtain here by the by the
please.
table.
So look, at least I'm wearing socks now. I will apologize, Ashley, all the years I wasn't wearing socks.
He had those
close-up.
raptor feet just hanging out.
Hey,
Talons.
Louise. This is what happens when I feed you guys soju before we start recording.
It's true.
All right, but look, the real talent and the biggest hater on this show has decided to call in and grace us poor podcast peasants with her presence. We've got Miss Ashley Lannyhoy on the line.
Hey,
What's
yeah,
up,
I shouldn't
Ashley?
be driving right now, so calling in.
Did you say you're driving right now?
Shouldn't be driving right now.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm calling in.
That's awesome.
Fair enough.
Oh no!
All right, and last but not least, here for me in the studio is Edmund Danzart holding down the fourth mic like the veteran podcaster he is. What's up, Ed?
What's up?
Yo, looking good. You're looking good, Ed. You're
Oh,
looking
thanks.
good. You got the mullet growing out in the back.
Cutting the mullet hawk. That's what I'm aiming for.
Not sure why, but I'm here for it.
It's awesome. That's why.
Really?
dare you.
This guy lives in a glass house
Yeah,
made
look.
of Black Panther socks.
I know, right?
Are you kidding me right now?
All right. Well, look, listeners, since we are recording this episode via video as well, I'm not in the frame for the record. You really just get to enjoy the
That's why
lovely
we
faces
That's why we're talking
of
about you,
Ashley,
man.
Cesar, and Ed.
We're showing you love, Spider Gooch.
We will have a video version of this podcast available. Our Patreon subscribers will get first dibs before we make this available for everyone on our YouTube channel. So go smash that like button.
Smash that like button,
If
hit
you aren't-
subscribe, and if you want the nickname for Potter to be
review.
Spider Gooch, come on in,
Yes.
right to the show.
After such a nice,
SG.
well-produced intro, this is the intro.
I'm going to
thing.
make sure I totally see, you really shouldn't come back. And I'm like, yes.
But seriously, if you aren't following us on YouTube, go ahead and fix that, all right? Now, Short Box Nation, before we get to the main event, I have to ask all of you an honest question.
Oh, shit.
When's the last time you visited the Short Box store and bought some merch? I mean, if you're not wearing our faces on a shirt, the even Short Box, bro. I mean, look, we've been putting out this.
What the hell is happening right now?
Look, we've been putting out this podcast for free for the last 9 years.
Ooh.
And I
like
mean,
where you're going. I like where you're
I
going
mean,
with
look, we've been suckers those first 9 years, but no more.
this. You know what?
Cashing
Fool me 1 year, shame on you. Fool me 9 years, also shame on you because I'm deliberately blind to marketing a podcast.
Yeah. But we will not continue this podcast until you've checked out the new merch available on our store. We've
Lot of
got
good
new
shit.
hats, shirts, and enamel pens fresh from the printers available right now. Look, I'm not asking you to buy everything in the store.
I am asking you to spend everything.
Limited
buy
edition
everything on
Spider
the show.
Gooch t-shirts on the way.
Oh my God, Ed, please.
Did you draw that?
Please.
Oh, man.
Spider Gooch.
Jim Lee, if you're listening, I just want
Jim
you
Lee,
to know.
We
gonna
honor
put,
you, Jim.
No, we love you.
Jim,
This
we are
is-
going to put respect on your name.
For sure, for
We
sure.
are for sure. Just hang on.
Yeah. But for real, help us keep the lights on here at the Shortbox Studio. Consider supporting the show by buying some merch from us. We just restocked our online store for new stuff.
True story.
And you can even save 10% on your order by using the discount code YO.
Look,
That's with
everybody's
2 O's.
wanking off to nostalgia these days. We're no different, okay?
right.
We are in that business. So if you remember the 90s
Yes.
at all, which is kind of also the reason why we're doing this episode, but if you remember, hell, if you remember the 80s,
Mhm.
then just buy our shit.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is your problem?
Yeah.
Vada, what are these people's problems?
Dude,
I'm
I'm
They
trying
say
to
they
figure that
rap.
out.
They say this
I've
is
been
It's
trying
so
to figure
easy
it
to
out.
do now.
It is easy. You
don't
just
have to
go
go anywhere.
online and you give me your freaking social security number.
Well, just money will suffice.
Yeah, I guess that's a start.
Well, look, Shortbox Nation, there's a link to the store in the show notes. Promise me you'll do that, and we'll get back to doing what we do best. We're going to get on with the main event.
Smash that like button.
Today, we'll be discussing the incredible career of Jim Lee. He's not only a world-renowned comic book artist, but he's held the title of writer, editor, and publisher, and has found massive success in pretty much everything he's done. So much so that DC Comics basically gave this guy the keys to the kingdom. Jim Lee currently holds the titles of Chief Creative Officer and Publisher of the company, titles that'll mean a lot more when we actually look at how Jim Lee got there. For you diehard listeners keeping count, this episode will mark the 16th installment of our long-running Artist Spotlight series. It's a series that we first started back in 2017 with an episode dedicated to the king himself, Jack Kirby, in episode 178. Jim Lee recently won our last Artist Spotlight poll, receiving a majority of the votes from our Patreon subscribers. That's right, our patrons don't just enjoy bonus episodes, first dibs, and extra content from us, but occasionally we trust them to play producers and help us pick the topics for episodes like these. It was my turn to pick the candidates, and I thought I was going to make it a hard choice for our patrons, but Jim Lee ended up getting 75% of the votes.
What were the other options?
He beat out other artist nominees and comic legends in their own right, like John Buscema and Jim Steranko.
Okay.
So Jim Lee ended up getting 75% of votes, and that's why we're here today. And it leads me to my first question. Ed, I'll go to you for this one. What comes to mind when you think of Jim Lee? What are some words that immediately come to mind?
Jim Lee. I'm thinking, man, what a great businessman he is, as far as behind the scenes maneuvering, and on top of his great artwork. This guy, it seemed like he has just meticulously planned this career from jump, starting with once he was a made man after selling 8 million copies. 8 million, untouchable. You're done. You'd never see me.
The man gets my respect just for constantly wearing a Malcolm X hat during the 90s.
And is it Malcolm X or is it X-Men?
Oh no, dude!
Or the Clerks 10
it was the
year
90s.
anniversary.
It was the 90s. Everyone had a Malcolm X hat.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. He had the Malcolm X hat. Just a great draftsman. Like I said, he was as a kid, he was one of my favorites easily. But just the fact that he's navigated these waters and become the publisher of DC, from an artist, from a self-taught artist to co-publisher of DC. That's wild.
Would you say it's Wild Storm?
Very nice. We're here to pay an homage.
Our resident old dudes.
Puns. You deserve better, Jim.
Leave us on a cliffhanger, though.
You deserve us better, Jim.
Our resident old dudes are here to shine today, y'all. Ashley, I'm going to go to you. Do you remember what was your first conscious exposure to Jim Lee? Yo, this is Botter. Sorry for interrupting this episode, but I'll keep it brief. I wanted to let you know about a massive sale we have going on over at the Shortbox Store on all of our merchandise and apparel. That's theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com. You can now save 20% off your entire order using the discount code YOO, Y-O-O. So if you've been waiting for the right time to finally buy that gauntlet snapback, or if you ever wanted to buy any of the shirts you see me wear on the podcast, well, now's your chance to get them for a steal. We still have a few sizes left of everything, but they won't last long, and once they're gone, they are gone. And did I mention that all of our apparel is screen printed on high quality material? None of that heat transfer or direct to garment stuff. Our shirts are some of the most comfortable ones you'll ever wear, and the hats look even better in person. So wear your support for the Shortbox Nation proudly, knowing that you're going to look damn good doing it. Get to theshortboxstore.bigcartel.com as soon as you can, and don't forget to use that discount code YOO, Y-O-O, to save 20% off your entire order. All of this information can be found in this episode's show notes if you want to get there faster. Thanks for not pressing fast forward. Now back to the show.
So I remember that X-Men #1 at the grocery store. I do remember that because his work is so dynamic. And I remember seeing the last name because when you're in, middle school, you can't just jump on the internet and find out anything about anybody.
I mean, you brokies couldn't. You brokies definitely couldn't.
Dude, you could. Yeah. The internet was just Prodigy. That's all it was back in the day. It was Prodigy and Errol's.
Yeah, it was nothing. So it was hard to find out more. But I do remember looking through old back issues and seeing the Punisher War Journal and seeing the name Lee and connecting it, which back then I didn't do that too often. So yeah, he was one of the first illustrators that I paid attention to.
Jim Lee God bless him. That man, God bless him a million times. 100 angels should kiss his beautiful face. And I apologize to anybody, but anyone listening just needs to just fucking nut up and shut up because it's about to get real 90s in here. Jim Lee in that very first X-Men comic, if you guys remember, at the end had like a weird sort of candid pinup where it's like all of the X-Men at a pool party.
Yeah.
Oh, each
I mean,
cover,
I'm saying like respectively, not creepy.
Yeah, no. You were
each
saying
cover
it
had
creepily.
its own pinup, separate pinup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
One had a villain's pinup.
yeah. Well, I mean, if you bought the Ultra Jizz 9000 #1 that had the fold out, you were gonna get like all of them in one. So I remember just seeing all of that. Like, first off, I was like, damn, this is a cool, interesting comic, and all the character designs were different, and it was just so unique. And my buddy, I didn't have it, he had it, and he would always bring it to school with him in middle school, just like Ashley was saying. And he would just be,
Yes.
he would draw like different like pages in his sketchbook, and I'm like, wow, this is what X-Men is? Cool. And then he turned a page, and there was freaking Psylocke just completely not wearing clothes, just a skimpier outfit than her regular outfit. And I was kind of like, what? Like, Jim Lee, are you creating a sexual awakening in me? What's happening, buddy? Jim
Those
Lee.
90s comics, man.
Jim Lee, what is happening with this Goblin Queen you've drawn? I don't know what's happening in my underwear
between
right
Sylvester's Goblin Queen, his Psylocke, and White Queen?
Dude,
oh my goodness.
now. I'm sitting here like, this is too much. I'm getting,
Does the comic code know about this?
Dude, my body's getting hot. It's like my body wasn't ready for Jim Lee. Like I was like nowhere near like I didn't develop until later on. Okay, guys, I'll just say the only thing I had was a mustache, and that was in high school senior year, and that's about it. I still talk like a boy. This man was creating things in me that I didn't know existed. Okay, I'm gonna tell you right now. Let's keep it real. Butter, how sexually attracted to you, Jim Lee, are you?
Wow.
The man.
Got
His
it.
work. The man.
I mean, he's a
Still
good
good-looking man.
Good looking guy. Yeah.
Cool.
I don't know how old he. I mean, he looks like he's still
50 something.
looking good for 50.
Yeah.
Black don't crack.
Those Asian jeans, bro.
Wait, what?
Long story short, Gambit was totally a 90s character, product of its time.
Oh god.
And
Gambit.
he fucking sold me on that shit. Just if you read that first issue, it's the funniest shit. He comes out of the hallway, his hair is like in a ponytail. He's not even in uniform. All the X-Men are like, let's go save the day. Magneto's being a shit. And Gambit's, he doesn't even have his shirt on. He's got a fucking not a cigar, a cigarette hanging out his mouth. And he's like, what's happening, guys? I just got done fucking.
Mon chéri.
Yeah.
Fromage.
He's like, yeah, I smell like French onion soup. What's going on, guys? And you're like, oh.
What's up, Rogue?
Who's this grody dude? But like, as a
He's
12-year-old
such a
boy, I couldn't get
sleazebag.
enough of it.
Yeah.
Yo, Jim Lee co-created Gambit and Omega Red.
Yes, dude.
Two of the most,
The
I don't know,
fucking
pretty badass dudes.
Fucking the most grodiest dudes. I love it.
Yeah, Omega Red was crazy.
For me, I got to say, when it comes to Jim Lee, for me, it was about finally getting validation from one of the friends I had in middle school who also read comics. And really, it was like the only other kid that I knew in middle school that read comic books. But
You're
he
like, hey, Tony, what's up? Shut the fuck up, Potter. Good to see you too, bud.
well, to be honest, he would act like, he would like, behind, like if it was just me and him, he'd be like, yo, so what do you think about Silver Surfer? But in front of friends, he was like, get out of here, nerd.
Get him.
Yeah.
Get him, guys. Your lunch?
Yeah.
Damn.
But he would always clown me for all of these like old comics I would bring from my dad's stash. Because, I was bringing like 70s Marvel,
You're bringing
John
gold to these
Buscema,
people.
right?
Gold.
I remember bringing a Fantastic Four comic that I don't think it was the first appearance of Silver Surfer, but it had Silver Surfer on the cover. I let him borrow it, and he got it taken away, and that
Your
was
dad?
the most fucking awkward conversation
what
I had.
beating did you get when you got home?
But it was pretty. My dad went back up there, ready to fight that band instructor. Like, I'm gonna need my comic book back. But I
Beat your
remember,
ass with some Kirby crackles coming out my face. Bah! Bah!
but I remember this particular friend. He quickly shut up when I started bringing my dad's Jim Lee stuff, and I mean, this is early 2000s, probably 2001,
Bringing him the
2002.
contraband.
So I'm bringing like the early Jim Lee stuff. My dad was collecting.
So your dad was actively collecting?
Oh yeah,
Oh, okay.
He was collecting. He definitely
awesome.
had like his X-Men stuff. Even had like his Image stuff, including Wildcats and even Deathblow. So when I would bring those comics in, he would shut up. This friend of mine would just shut up, and he'd be like, "This is the comics I'm talking about, man. Like, look at all the action and how badass it is."
Your buddy
up to
sounds like a
date.
real chode.
Well, he reminds me a lot of the co-host I podcast with now.
Oh, how cute.
Uh-oh.
How cute.
But look, but now I'm going to shoot you some bail. And you know, I set that up poorly. No. But honestly, but the next thing I was going to say, next thing I was going to say was that on top of that, being one of my earliest memories, Jim Lee's illustrations, I think, is also responsible for some of my favorite memories related to early years of meeting like Cesar, and then at that time, our friend Sebastian, because I don't know, just hanging around you guys early on, your love of Jim Lee was like unprecedented. I thought I loved Jim Lee, but meeting you and Sebastian around that time and like you guys analyzing like every panel and detail in Batman Hush, or
that was the, you know, because around it was 2003, so around that time, like, yeah,
well
like,
said.
Jim Lee was doing like Hush, and we were just like, oh my god, like, because we were young again, we were in middle school again, you know, like it was like, damn.
That, and like that specifically, that was like a level up. That was like, I think motherfuckers, I've only been gone for a couple of years.
I think it's his best work.
I think so
no,
too.
Absolutely.
I think so too.
Hell, I'll go out and add one more thing. Jim Lee's the reason I'm friends with like Dustin Harewood, who we've had on the show a few times. But I remember bringing a stack of X-Men comic books done by Jim Lee with me when I was still working at the museum. One day Harewood was, and he's an art teacher for anyone that's not
Weren't
familiar.
you a bouncer there or something?
I wish. I was a...
no, seriously.
Security, right?
Yeah, I was security, but I was more of a paid witness. That's what I was. I was a paid witness at the museum. But yeah, I was working security at the museum. I brought a stack of X-Men comics. I had put them down in a corner to go do like my rounds, quote unquote. And Harewood had brought...
What a horrible security guard. You're like the dude. You're like, I got to do these rounds here. Let me put these X-Men comics away.
But he had his art class at the museum, and he was giving them a tour. And I went to go do my rounds, came back, and and at the time I didn't know him, but here's this strange man with long dreads down to his calves, flipping through my comic books, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. It's just I see you got some Jim Lee here, and he is the GOAT to me." And ever since then, we've been friends. That that sparked a friendship that's lasted.
The common denominator here is old men. You seem to know a lot of old men.
Oh. Yeah, my collection of old men is through the roof. Top 5.
But more than your Jim Lee collection, I think your collection of old men is pristine. No arguments.
But Ed, I wanted to go to you to kind of kick us off. And when we look at his career, because that's one thing that me and Steve were talking about earlier this week, is that this man has such an expansive career. I mean, we're talking from the mid to late 80s. Even to like this day, he's still doing stuff. So
are we doing origin story here? Because I can do origin story.
Well, I wanted to know about like some of his early beginnings and like big break into comic books, and then we'll split it up.
Okay, because we know we're going to talk about some Samurai Santa.
Oh shit!
You guys, anybody? So this is, everybody credits that Alpha Flight run as his first run, but Samurai Santa by Solson Publications was his first published work. 1986.
What is Samurai Santa?
It's basically like an Asian guy gets hired to be a mall Santa. Of course he knows Kung Fu. And
it's awesome.
And he fights like an evil Santa that ends up being, this is before Bad Santa, but it's an Asian mall Santa that fights an evil Santa that ends up being the store manager. So you save yourself $50 on eBay getting this book. So, but
I have never heard that mentioned. Like even in this in-depth interview, I've heard of him.
He's not going to mention. So
that is funny.
You think he's going to start off with Samurai Santa?
He's going to lead with Samurai Santa.
He's going to lead with Marvel.
Representing the face
lead
of
with
DC.
Archie Goodwin. Pluck me out of the crowd. Held me up.
Goodwin held me
like Lion King.
Like fucking Rafiki.
Damn. Yo. So Cred Ed is in full effect today.
So, like I said, the artist was Don Sacrisi, I think. So he's kind of like the guy that, and it's crazy because like I've listened to some interviews and he mentions things, but he doesn't put a lot of names on them. I'm not sure why, or if it's just he just doesn't remember. But he's kind of gets credited as kind of either introducing him to some editors at Marvel, or and I've heard interviews where he said he used to hang out at a comic shop and he knew like a guy who kind of got in the foot in the door in DC. And basically the best advice he said he's got, because like I said, this guy was on track to be a doctor. This guy,
we're talking Jim Lee, right?
Jim Lee, sorry. So Jim Lee, Princeton graduate, Ivy Leaguer in psychology. He was going to go, basically, he made a deal with his folks, because like I said, and this is, his dad was a paratrooper and a medical doctor in the South Korean military.
Damn.
Imagine telling that guy you want to draw comics.
I would like to draw comics, Father. After being full on done with like your psych degree.
So basically, you know, like I said,
Yeah.
full. I mean, he took the test. He was ready to, you know, apply to med school, pre-med, and so basically he made a deal. Kind of had a little bit of a blowout, but he made a deal with his folks, saying, and he's still living with his folks at the time. He's probably
Balls. The balls
22.
of this guy.
And it was funny because he said he had this big fight, and then he's like, well, if you don't, it's like either I get to do this or I'm leaving. And he just walks out. He like basically walks out, and then he's like, I live in the suburbs. I'm like 10 miles away from where am I going to go? You know? So basically after that, they kind of had a more civil talk. He basically made him a deal. It's like, look, give me 1 year. If I don't make it, I'm going to go to med school. So
My parents would have given me 1 day.
Yeah.
You got 1 day to make it.
So 1 day,
Right.
but everything was in order. So like I said, he basically said he drew 10 hours a day, you know, working on his craft. No internet. This is pre-real internet. You know, this is 86. So he's getting out of college. What comes out in 86? That is a monumental year for comics.
Shit, Dark Knight Returns.
You're damn right. Elvira's House of Mystery came out in 1986. So we're seeing like Dark Knight Returns. We're seeing Watchmen.
I was going to say Watchmen. That was my
We're seeing Daredevil Born Again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm not sure where the Samurai Santa falls in, but basically sending his stuff out, getting rejection. The best advice he said that he got was, you need to put your face out there too. You need to meet these people.
You got to meet the editors.
You got to meet the editors. So he goes to New York Comic Con. I think Archie Goodwin takes a liking to him. He goes there that weekend. Monday, he's got an interview with Marvel.
Jesus.
And he starts working.
I'll add to that.
Crazy.
When he goes to that New York Comic Con to meet Archie Goodwin, I had heard him recall that story, and he said Archie Goodwin was waiting on another artist to show up with his portfolio.
Yeah.
But he was late, and Jim like saw him and was like, "Well, shit, it's no better time than now."
It's just like a damn movie, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Archie Goodwin's like, hey, can we make this quick? I got a date with Forrest Ackerman. We're going to have coffee later.
So like I said, his Marvel career starts Alpha Flight number 51, October of 87. So he's in there. And it's funny, he has a fun story, like having, you know, Asian parent, it's, you know, it's pretty taxing and pretty rough, but they said, but they'll support you in your creativity up to a point. When it's time to be an adult, you need to knock that shit out and then start, you know.
Ed, do you know something about this?
I can relate. I wish I had this guy's talent because there's a lot of parallels. I just don't have the talent that this guy has. But so once he got his first job, his folks were like, "Oh, you can make a living? Okay, we're good. We're gold." So this is before even selling 8 million copies. His folks were on board. Once he started getting work, dude, it just kind of rockets off from there. But he starts with Alpha Flight, you know. So what was cool back then is you could kind of get like on the job training. Right now, I think the comic industry is tough because you have to be a polished artist to get in the door now. Back in the day, you know, they put you on like a low selling book, you know, to get your chops down, you know. So Alpha Flight wasn't, you know, setting the world on fire. So he starts there, and Walsh Portacio is inker. So he's
That's crazy.
Yeah. So they become buddies, you know, and like I said, he's one of the guys that is one of the founders of Image, but kind of takes a step back.
He's on the fringe.
He's on the fringe. Yeah. I'm not sure what happened, but he kind of stepped away. Just for another fun fact, I think Alpha Flight 53, he draws his first Wolverine. And you know that.
Oh shit!
The love story begins with Jim Lee and Wolverine.
Just the two of us.
And then he starts getting some covers. So he's moving up. Punisher's starting to kind of get some steam.
Oh boy!
So now we're going to Punisher War Journal. You can start seeing kind of a small manga influence. Like you can see kind of like an Otomo influence in that early stuff, like some action lines, motion lines, which a lot of the American stuff wasn't really doing at that point. And then at number 5, we go to his first meeting with Scott Williams, you know, and that collaboration has been, you know, for like 30 years. So Scott Williams, you know, he's like the perfect fit, because if you see some of Jim Lee's stuff that's not inked by Williams, you can, and I kind of like it better because that's just my aesthetic, but it's a lot more sketchy, a lot more loose. And then Scott Williams really tightens up a lot of that stuff, but still keeping some of that energy, but tightening up stuff where you need to tighten stuff up.
I think Scott Williams is the difference between Jim Lee's stuff popping off of the screen or off of the page. I'm sorry, versus
100%.
it feeling like pencils kind of flat. I think Scott Williams adds like a sense of dimension.
Yeah,
to a
it
lot
gives
of
you
his drawings.
depth, so it's not just a lot, because there's so much line work, fine line work with Jim Lee stuff with the hatching and everything. You need to have an inker that can kind of distinguish, okay, what's in front, what's in the back, give you that extra dimension, that third dimension.
Were you into Punisher when Jim Lee was doing it, dude?
I never, honestly, the first time I really had a cognizance of Jim Lee was probably Uncanny X-Men.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
I had to go back.
Yeah.
to War Journal. And you could see like the makings of,
because I don't see Punisher War Journal making it through my dad's sensors, making it through. I got some Punisher, but it was more of like the older, more tame Punisher. Where he's using rubber bullets and
Sure, of
not
course.
killing
Come on.
anybody. Yeah, he's got the sweet white galoshes on.
Actually, I think the only exposure to Punisher that Jim Lee did was the reference in Mallrats, where Brody is like, I need my Punisher War Journal, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm like, it was like, what? Why is that one so important? I don't understand. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, Jim Lee, what?
Yeah.
Like, what a nerd. I was so like complete, like, well, yeah, he had to start somewhere. He didn't
wasn't the I don't know if it was Konami, but the Punisher game, the Punisher Nick Fury game, wasn't that based off of War
the
Journal?
cover?
Right?
War Journal? Well, it's I don't know, because he fights Kingpin at the end of that game. I got that on emulation.
Okay. Wow.
That's awesome. It's
Nice.
fun.
It's
fun.
random thought. Random.
So after that, like I said, then he goes to what they called the X-Men office, and that was, X-Men. That was the, X-Men was the thing. X-Men was the popular book. The Avengers were old timers, and all those guys. But Spider-Man and X-Men, those. That's where he wanted to be.
It just seemed like perfect timing that Jim Lee happened to be there just as Marvel is reinventing itself for another generation, right? Yeah. So anybody that was into comics was already kind of an outsider. Well, who are the ultimate outsiders for the freaking Marvel universe, right?
X-Men.
The X-Men, of course. So it was just interesting that Jim Lee at this point in time is just happens to freaking get the golden fucking the geese of comics without anybody really seeing it happen in the future. Like it was kind of like, it's fucking X-Men.
And he influenced their look for how long?
And oh my gosh.
I mean,
fashion
to
designer
this
Jim
day,
Lee.
I bet, especially at that time. I mean, the whole reason we got the animated series was based off of Jim Lee's success on X-Men.
And he's taking the place because he starts on Uncanny 248, 1989, and he's taken. He fills in for Mark Silvestri, which top talent.
Oh, come on.
Super,
Mars already said
I think
hi.
super underrated, just not as prolific as Jim Lee. He became more of the business guy than continuing the art, which is fine, which I don't blame him at all. But then, like I say, he does 256 through 258, and then 267, he basically replaces Silvestri, leaves, and he's basically the X-Men artist now.
And I think it's safe to say my dad might have every single issue of X-Men from that point forward. My dad has always been like I think he's always, much like all of us maybe in this room, had aspirations to draw comic books. So anytime he would draw, like I could tell, like, Jim Lee was his man. Like fine details.
You would see your dad burn the midnight oil, bend over a drawing table and be like, Daddy, I love you. He's like, get the fuck out of my room, son.
But it's funny
I hate you, son.
You're the reason I'm not working at Marvel.
I regret it.
Please, no.
Daddy, but I love you. Shut up. Next time, the Potter's like, I will be like Marvel. Maybe my father will love me.
Damn, you really figured me out in 5 minutes.
Damn.
What were we saying, Ed? Back to you, Ed. Sorry.
Yeah, Ed, come on. Come back to you, Ed.
We'll be back in a minute.
But you're saying Jim Lee now has taken over as the main artist on X-Men after or Uncanny. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So this, and then like I'm not sure the time frame, but then he's so popular, his style almost becomes the new Marvel house style.
That's saying something, dude.
Sure.
You know what? His stuff now
Between
though
him
is
and
definitely the house style for DC at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's safe to say that.
Yeah, he's publishing. You better draw as good as me, motherfuckers. Firing your ass.
That's a good point.
So he gets the untitled or the adjectiveless X-Men, they call it, just X-Men with
Chris Claremont.
Chris Claremont,
X-Men.
who basically this is when you can kind of see Jim Lee's
Butter
maneuvering.
in post. Start queuing up the freaking to start playing the theme song in the background.
But this is where you can kind of see Jim Lee is I'm the captain now. To Chris Claremont. Yeah, it's like you
I
don't
am
like
the
Wolverine.
Started getting a big head.
It's like you don't like Wolverine. I like fucking Wolverine. They're buying this book because of me.
And I
motherfucker.
like
They
fuck.
comics.
The first one. It's like they're co-writing, but you can see what happens. But the editors have to say, like Bob Harris, who's
Bob Harris,
who's been a champion of Lee for even going forward in time to Heroes Reborn. They actually got him his job because they asked them, "Who do you want to work with?"
I remember the
Bob
cartoon
Harris.
drawings of Tom DeFalco and Bob Harris in the bulletins.
So basically, they were starting to butt heads because you have two creative people, and one wants to go one direction, one wants to be more action, more Wolverine focused, more
Look, the man threw away his psychology degree for this, and Chris Claremont had how much, like 15 years at that point, drawing or writing for X-Men.
You had your time.
Yeah. I mean, they
My
both
time
had
is now.
They both had stuff to
It's
they both had invested in the book.
And for the record, when they relaunch X-Men and it becomes the adjective list X-Men, that issue
X-Men.
1 sells what was it, over 8
million, 8.4 million, 8 point.
Most single issue sales. Most single issue sales. I think it's set a record.
Also at the time, I believe Stan Lee is in heaven telling God, like, hey, 8 million copies. Can't be wrong
So
there.
That
True believer.
basically eclipses everything. Todd did 3 million or so. Oh,
Shh, don't say that so loud.
oh so Todd did
Yeah, we're still
3
trying to get
million?
Todd on the
He
show.
can hear you.
3 million.
But to your point, I mean, it does feel, I think around this time, it's like every month records were just being, broken. From Todd
Slam
McFarlane's
dunk.
Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Slam
this
dunk.
was like the kind of the speculator market going in full effect because of this also had 5 covers that linked together and had, but it was still
The Marvel marketing machine was at an all-time high.
so they were
for
trying
that
to
book.
appeal to the collectors,
Mhm.
the the people who are thinking this is like buying stocks,
Right. Basically all the chodes in high school that I
and
knew
just
that
to the
were like,
what they call the Marvel zombies, just trying to
I'm gonna get
satiate
these
them.
bugs. Don't look at it. Don't look at
I mean,
it.
this was, and the thing was, Jim Lee was among that group, and I mean the group that would end up starting Image.
Mhm.
Your McFarlanes, your Liefels, your Valentinos, etc. But primarily those first two that I mentioned, that where it was, I think, also a change in attitude in comic book culture, where now the artist was becoming like recognizable.
It's become more
they were becoming
art-driven.
rock stars.
Yeah,
and like I said, and even just listening to interviews, like because we talk about relating to comics beyond just comic books, like being an outcast. Oh, I can relate to the X-Men, and he would say that he never thought like that. He basically said, I like comics because they were kind of escapist, fun. They're just fun, and it could be power fantasy because it's like cool guys, cool costumes with powers. So there's always some kind of psychology behind why you like what you like.
Look, I'm not even going to try and ask Jim Lee about the psychology.
What if I had eye
behind-
beams? I'll show that guy.
For the record, he would Hannibal Lecter that shit on me so fast.
For the record, I think he studied biological.
Yeah, he was biological
psychiatry. So he would just like
That don't mean
operate.
that don't mean nothing. They teach you all the other shit too. He just
he's
fucking learned the
He's
other.
more working for Weapon X.
Yeah.
Oh
Than,
my god.
he's doing experiments on things.
Actually, I want to go to you and have you kind of speak to Jim Lee's eventual departure from Marvel and then joining the rest of the Image founding fathers in the studio they started at called Wildstorm. What do you know about that stuff?
So, well, I know it was at the time he left, like you guys talked about, I have written down that it's 8.2 million copies.
Okay, 8.2.
Best-selling single issue of an American comic of all time, like still holds the record.
USA,
In 1990,
USA.
In 1991, and then 1992 he leaves to start, Image, and the it's kind of confusing because there's like imprints within imprint. So there's like Wildstorm,
Yeah.
Top Cow, there's the Homage Comics.
Yeah, Image was never like one solid group. It was
Yeah.
a bunch of like
Conglomerate
factions,
publishers.
which like also they would steal talent from each other too. So it was
Yeah.
pretty wild.
Pretty
Yeah,
wild
I mean,
storm.
what a time to be alive. Like,
It was definitely a
they're,
revolution
yeah.
in regards to like comic book, especially like creator-owned or comic book creators getting to own their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I mean, he's making like actual millions of dollars for Marvel, and do you think that they're cutting him a check or anything?
Yes, actually, he was one of the few
Really?
artists.
Daughter, please.
Sorry,
please.
I'm just saying.
Your
well,
father loves you. Okay, your father loves you.
I'm just saying he was kind of unprecedented that he was actually getting some sort of kickback for every issue sold of fucking X-Men.
To
That's
be fair,
a gangster move.
to be
Come on.
Not
fair,
enough
though,
to keep him there, though.
Meanwhile,
well, to be fair,
Ooh.
there was a royalty system in place at the
Yeah.
time, so that's why.
after every other OG artist had to suffer.
Yeah, well,
on the back.
to be as much crap as Jim Shooter gets, he's one of the guys that really kind of instituted that the royalty system.
He
so,
kept it from artists just being looked at as moving parts.
Yeah.
Just things cog in a ginormous machine, as opposed to what they really were, building blocks for the institute of what we know as
because that's
transcendent
why
art form.
and that's why Rob Liefeld's still getting Deadpool royalties because even it gets kind of confusing, but even if you create a character during the 90s, probably late 80s to 90s, you still get royalties consisting. So that's why Liefeld still gets. That's why you see him at all the Deadpool premieres and shit.
Milking the shit out of that cow.
That's why Todd McFarlane took a year off of comics, because he sold 3 million. He became a millionaire.
Look, I just did some quick math, right? I said if Lee was getting, because I think that issue of X-Men is what? What's the sticker price on that, Ed? Like $1.25 or something?
$150.
$150.
Okay, $150.
I knew it.
Let's just say that he was getting, and I'm lowballing it. Let's say he was getting 5 cents.
So your standard Marvel play.
Got it. Yes, exactly. Following the standard protocol. If he was getting 5 cents for every issue sold of X-Men #1, and I just went with 8 million for a clean number, that is a $400,000 check.
Yeah.
And this is early 90s.
Yeah.
I think
that's how those guys financed Image through those royalties. They weren't
Marvel.
They weren't. It wasn't the fact that they weren't getting royalties, but they weren't getting any of the merchandising money. It wasn't the fact they weren't getting money. They weren't just getting as much as they felt they were entitled to.
Imagine Stanley. They built it off what money?
Kirby's giving him the finger.
Yeah. but back to you, actually, as you were saying. So they end up forming Image, and we've got all these different.
Butter, cue the music to the Wildcats cartoon show. Got it.
Wildcats.
Yeah, so Jim Lee and Brandon Cho do Brandon Choi.
Choi. You say
Choi. They
Chode?
do
Sorry, go ahead.
Wildstorm,
Mhm.
which is a cross between Wildcats and Stormwatch.
Yep.
And so they're owning everything that they put out, and it's just there was a lot of cool, like, looking into it, there's a lot of stuff I didn't realize came out of Wildstorm. So they did those two, Gen 13.
Love Gen 13.
They actually published Ex Machina, that Brian K. Vaughan, Tony Harris book. And then I was reading that they were, starting a series, and they were looking for talent, and he was thinking about, kind of stealing John Romita Jr. But he decided to do a talent search, and, for better or for worse, that's how we got J. Scott Campbell.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow.
That's crazy.
You don't fuck with Bill Campbell?
They would. I know they, like, a lot of those guys would just recruit from, they send them like some stuff, and they would just fly them in because they were just like making money hand over fist. Damn. So yeah, it was wild.
Hold on, let's not gloss over this. Ashley,
please.
what are your thoughts on J. Scott Campbell?
I love him.
As an artist, I think he's very talented.
Uh-oh.
I think it's just working at the comic shop for so long and seeing the people that bought the J. Scott Campbell statues
Oh, okay,
All
that's
them
different. That's
cheesecakey
different.
statues.
is where it's yes.
Well,
It's
Yeah.
like the difference between Rick and Morty fans. I totally understand.
Yes, exactly.
The reason I like him a lot is just because he kind of almost combines like Jim Lee and some of that cartooniness of like Art Adams.
Oh
And I
yeah.
love that style.
combo.
Yeah, I didn't. But that's kind of one of those things. It's like I don't really need to. He just does covers, and I don't need to get a slutty Cinderella statue.
Actually, I think I think Wildstorm at one point also they were publishing Astro City, my favorite.
Yes.
My fucking favorite comic.
Yeah,
they were.
they did that Homage Comics imprint, and they did all kinds of stuff under there. They did that The Strangers in Paradise, that Terry Moore
That's
book.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And then also the Max for a little bit, and the Boys.
Damn, they had all the. Sound like they had all the best shit.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, they were like kind of pioneering.
The boys' time, that's after the DC sale. And DC basically said, oh, this is too much. And then they went to Dynamite.
Well, I guess actually, since you brought it up, from an artist perspective, what do you think about Jim Lee's work, especially around this time, like with his Wildcats work and the stuff he was doing for his own titles?
So I think from the very beginning, he's been improving, but it's always been so, I think like dynamic is like the one word I would use. So everything that you look at, especially every cover, it's literally just like bursting off the page, and you just kind of see this progression. And I do like, his more recent, like past 10 year stuff. But when you go back and look through it, it started off dynamic and just continually got more dynamic, if that makes sense. Like that's just the one word I would use to describe everything he's done.
Yeah.
That is well said. Did you have anything else to share in regards like this time frame for Jim Lee?
No, not because I think after this they sold Wildstorm, did DC bought it, and then he went back to work for the big two after that. So but I think this was like important for him to be able to like go out there, and you see like what an eye he has for talent when he's the one publishing and putting things out.
And I think this is the time too, once he's running his own company, that he realizes, I don't want to run my own company. It's like,
because he was serving him with the role as editorial director.
Yeah, he says company. Like, I'd rather be instead of being the goat, like the guy that writes all the checks and is putting all his money on this. Because I know, and this is coming from some interviews and some things, but I know this is after the boom, the speculator crash. So he's looking for, okay, I need to get out. So I know he first approached Marvel to sell Wildstorm. They denied it. And I think it's good because I think it was right before Marvel's bankruptcy happened. So he was shopping around for longer than even the partners knew about. So I think, like I said, he's like, that's what I think he's such a great, he navigated these waters and was really smart. You could see the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
And I know one of the big factors, dude's got 9 kids.
I was about to mention that. Like,
I had no idea.
This
I didn't
man
either.
has nine
children.
Hold on. Before anything, Ashley, was any of the work that Wildstorm they were putting out, was it on your radar?
So it was mostly like the later stuff, like after DC bought it. Because The Authority is probably one of my favorite comics of all time. And also how
would you sell that to somebody who doesn't know anything about The Authority?
Well, see, it's hard because when you go at the core of it, it's just like the deconstructed superhero that you've seen before.
Sure.
But I don't know. There's just something about it. I think because I'd just read Watchmen, and then I found this not too long after, and it was just like a more modern, like better approach to it. I guess.
Who are the?
Don't tell Alan Moore I said that.
Warren, I won't say anything. Who are the creative team behind it?
So it was, I think the very first one that I started off with, it was Warren Ellis and Brian Hitch.
Okay.
But it was just so beautifully drawn, and these characters were so complex, and there was just so much of it.
And Warren Ellis is like a lot more readable.
So it's safe to say that at this time, Jim Lee, we start seeing that business savvy side of him that, we can definitely see on full display nowadays, collecting the best talent. It sounds like he really let everyone kind of, do their own thing. He had a very diverse selection of titles that was coming out through Wildstorm. And you know what? And Ed, you brought up something that made me think of something he said in an interview where the reason why he also didn't want to go down the medical route and become a doctor like his father was he noticed that his dad had to, study to renew his license. And he was like, well, I don't want to keep taking tests. And,
never ends.
So, yeah. I mean, you can kind of see that attitude here where it's like, well, shit, now that I own my own studio and I can do what I want, I just want to go back to drawing. He wanted to follow that passion once again. And that's what kind of leads us to his return back to Marvel with Heroes Reborn, which, if I recall, it kind of upset a lot of not only fans, but other creators that felt like, dude, you just, made a big stand going to Image and now you're back with Marvel. C, can you speak a little bit about that return back?
Sure. So he comes back to the House of Ideas, as it were, with Rob Liefeld. You know, I don't understand why he would go back. You know, I mean, Jesus Christ,
not happy.
It's not. Hey, look, it's not for me.
They offered Todd to do Spider-Man at that time too, and he's like, "F you guys."
He's like, not only did I did it, I did it. So yeah. So essentially, Lee and Rob Liefeld, they come back to Marvel, right? And it's crazy because these guys, they started Image. They proved to like the big two, like, yo, we're just as competitive, we're just as hungry, and we're just as dangerous. So watch out. They made a splash, okay? And maybe not in that sort of like derogatory way. Like, I feel like Todd may have gone a little more overboard. Like, yo, fuck y'all. We ain't doing shit with you, motherfuckers, you know? But like, but there's something to be said about Jim Lee's hustle and the idea that this man has 9 children. No, just kidding. The idea
9 children.
9 children?
Keep it in your pants.
Look, they ain't dying of boredom at the Lee house, okay? The man,
you need to do some little snip.
The man is an artist, and the man is an artist. You know what I'm saying? Look, that said, look, this is a guy who, I'm going to say it. You could put him up there from a financial and creative way, not so much creative, but more like what he brings to the table with Kirby, because they both like reinvented everything, right? So,
only thing I would disclaimer is like I don't think he created like Kirby.
Not at all. That's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Not from a creative perspective, but like what they bring to the table as far as talent is concerned. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So like he's there, and you know, it's almost like history sort of repeating itself. You have another bad boy artist, arguably the bad boy of comics at the time, right? And it's strange, man. He opened the door for a bunch of people. And he comes back to Heroes Reborn, right? For those of you who don't know, Heroes Reborn, it was like Marvel wanted to kind of do what they did with the Ultimate Universe just maybe 10 years earlier.
A fresh coat of paint.
Yeah.
On some stagnant titles.
But the thing is, look, I don't know if you guys remember. Ashley, Ed, we're a little older than Botter, so I'm going to have to lean on y'all. Wizard Magazine put out promos for the Heroes Reborn stuff. Do you guys remember any of that stuff? Like any of the, because we had no idea about the story. We just had Jim Lee's drawings. Do you guys remember any of that stuff?
I remember the biggest thing I remember is that double bicep or double barrel chested Captain America picture.
Well, that's Liefeld.
Yeah, that's the only thing I remember about Heroes Reborn. I remember the announcement of they were coming back, and that was like, and I was listening to Rob's podcast because he did a 4-part series about Heroes Reborn, and he said it was like, he was getting it from, you know, co-founder Todd McFarlane giving you shit, and you have a bunch of editors not wanting you there,
right?
And like even when we talked about that Eternals episode, there were people bitching about Kirby coming back for Eternals.
Of course.
So you could imagine like the people who were on these titles, these respective titles, you know, and then, you know, like Liefeld's complaints, they were doing Capwolf. Come on, what do you? They were doing Capwolf before I took over Captain America.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we, from a reader's perspective, you know, we didn't know what was going to come about. All we knew, at least me personally, I should say, I remember looking at and I'd see his version of The Thing and Doctor Doom and even Sue Richards.
Dude, his Namor is...
Oh my gosh. I was like, wow,
Ashley, check out this Namor.
All this stuff looks so good. And at the time you're thinking like, this is going to be an explosion. This is going to be so good. Jim Lee, this guy just revolutionized the X-Men. He's going to revolutionize, though. I didn't give a fuck about the Fantastic Four, but now I do. And we didn't.
And
we did not care.
And you got to understand at this time too, like I said, these guys got big money, you know. Why come back? How about $3 million to do Fantastic Four?
Right.
Wow.
You know, they both got, Liefeld and Lee each got $3 million to do this. And I think they were expecting those old numbers, those millions of, you know.
Well, they wanted it's strange because I feel like they didn't this is complete editorial. I don't know my fucking ass from my elbow, but I feel like maybe the old heads at Marvel that were running shit were still running shit like it was the 70s without realizing, or maybe willfully in denial. Yeah. The reinvention of comics, the modern age was happening at that point in time. And these guys are sitting here watching these artists, these badasses.
That's the thing too, and it was that mentality of like you were saying earlier, like it's not the artist, it's the title. It's not Jim Lee, it's X-Men. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
it's not,
exactly.
Like I said, you it's like Marvel is what sells the books, not the artists, not the writers. They're all interchangeable. You know, we just bring talented people in, cycle them in and out. That's why they don't have any like full-time people at that time, especially. The only full-time people were editorial people.
Yeah.
So, you know, and even after that Image exodus, they didn't really do a lot of promoting of artists.
Sure.
And like no one really did it since Stan Lee did it. He would say, oh, the great Kirby, the wonderful Wally Wood, you know, he would do those little blurbs. But yeah, like I said, it was like, it's like you don't sell the books, the characters sell the books.
And I think this is around the time that all of us started buying comics not based off characters.
No,
like,
I was following artists.
That was 100%. That's the beginning of, man, that's crazy. The modern age is the beginning of people starting to follow on mass creators as opposed to the title.
And it's funny, Jim Lee told a story too, like when he would collect comics as a kid, if it was an artist he'd like for a book, and if they changed the artist, he would stop the book.
Yeah, I mean, he was ahead of the game. The guy was freaking seminal, to say the least. And I remember, like, while this was happening, like they wanted him to reimagine the Defenders, Doctor Strange, Nick Fury. These are all, and it's funny because again, this is also look at the titles they chose: Defenders, Doctor Strange, Nick Fury. These are all titles that have previously had people who were attached that changed the game, right? Yeah. As opposed to thinking like, yo, why don't we let this guy run, like just let him go crazy? No. We're gonna do the same thing we've always done. We're on autopilot. Steranko fucking did Nick Fury, and look what he did. Come on, let's just do this. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's so
a lot
strange.
Of missed opportunity and like potential.
Just a lot of myopicness, I think. Like a lot of can't see the forest for the trees going down.
So when it came to like books of that time, right, in that age, is the only way I was able to kind of gauge how good they were was, well, does my dad have a full run? You know, how much of this stuff does he have?
We need to bring Jim Lee in here. You need to have a couple sessions on the couch. You know.
Well, I noticed that all of his Heroes Reborn stuff ended around, I don't know, I think by third issue, he didn't have anymore. And I'd ask him, Dad, you know, it's Jim Lee. Why didn't you collect more of it?
We don't say his name in this house
his
anymore.
thing was like, well, because the story sucked, Botter. He was like, you know, they were banking too much on the art, selling it.
And
they
when your buddy from
stories.
High school is writing the comic book for you, Brandon
Show, yeah.
He was like the only other Korean kid in this town.
But I mean, if you're looking at those comic books strictly from an artistic perspective, especially like the titles that Jim Lee was drawing, you know, Fantastic Four, Iron Man, and then eventually all of them, I think, at some point.
And so
it is some of his good stuff.
Yeah, and just to go back with this, it wasn't just this is money for, you know, just, you know, Liefeld, Lee. This is basically your studios are producing this book.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Like I said, so because it wasn't just, you know, Fantastic Four. He had Wiles Portacio doing Iron Man, which is beautiful stuff. And one of the things, too, that kind of why that kind of had an abrupt stop was Marvel's starting to go through some bankruptcy issues. This is when Marvel's just spending money left and right, crazy, buying card companies, sticker companies, starting magazines, you know, all this stuff. And
thank God, because I ate that shit up like
oh yeah, but
too bad I couldn't save them.
But, right, but from what I've heard is that basically they wanted to cut their contracts, Liefeld and Lee's. They said, okay, we want you to still this, but we can only pay you. And they're basically like, boop. And this is, I think, one of Lee's first kind of attempts to sell Wildstorm.
Well, let me get there. Let me get there. This is my turf here.
Okay,
all right,
my bad.
So. This is to what you're saying. He left Image. He sold Wildstorm to DC, right? And the only reason is so that way he could get back to art. Like this guy just wanted to get back to being an artist. Like
he didn't want that pressure too.
Right. Like
running a company.
He's like, yo, that's why I didn't want to be a fucking doctor, man. Get the shit out of here, man. I want to create. I want to be an artiste.
I don't want to run a studio. I want to be an executive.
He wants to have fun, man. The guy's fucking about fun.
Well said.
So I mean, just saying. So he draws a Batman black and white backup story for the first issue of Gotham Knights in 2000, right? Then in 2003, an anniversary of meeting Botter for the first, a fresh face
Young,
Botter.
naive.
I think that might have been a
Young-
little too early. But.
Young, no. I met you back in 1987. Young, fresh face, cherub-like Botter.
Oh.
Sweet.
Hello, sir. Do you read comics too?
Sweet, naive Botter. I met him. He
Give
didn't.
him a pat on the head.
He had no. I tousled his hair.
You scamp. Run along, you scamp.
Well,
Here's some Dark Knight Returns. Come back.
well, he essentially was talking with DC, and he collaborated with Jeff Loeb on a little thing we call Batman Hush, and I think it's universally agreed that. Actually, I don't know. You didn't really chime in. What do you think of Jim Lee's work during Hush? What do you think?
Oh, that's my reading recommendation.
Damn.
As not being huge into Batman,
Sure.
I love that book.
Okay, so I'm going to then make the statement that the Short Box wholeheartedly agrees that Jim Lee's best work is Batman Hush.
I think so.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I'll go
say
on that
if you
limb.
haven't read it, I highly
It's like
recommend
published work. I think this is his best.
it. Oh
published
yeah,
work.
for sure.
Mhm.
So it's a 12-issue run, and the freaking sales are completely successful.
This is his LL Cool J. Don't call it a comeback.
Dude.
I've been here for years.
That's what I'm saying.
Fucking right, Ed.
So in 2004, he does
He ain't
For
lose it.
Tomorrow with Brian Azzarello. And I think that was more of a calculated move because Azzarello was popping off with,
Yep.
was
100
it
Bullets.
100
And I mean,
Bullets?
Yeah.
and it was like, look, I did Batman. Let me show you I can do it with the big blue Boy Scout.
Sure.
Mhm.
It's
I know,
all
I know.
right. It's
I
all right. It's
don't
all right.
recommend it nearly.
That was
as-
the new
Yeah,
52,
I'm not going to
though,
say
right?
it's bad.
That was
Not-
the new 52.
No, way
It
before.
was before? Okay.
Oh yeah, way before. But in 2005,
I didn't see
Ooh.
one page of that.
the
Come on.
sweet, the pasta gnocchi, the deliciousness of All-Star Batman and
my
Robin.
God.
Boy Wonder, the goddamned Batman. Delicious. He worked with one of his heroes, Frank Miller.
Absolutely.
You know,
what
and-
do you say to Frank Miller?
You
Could you
don't-
imagine reading those scripts?
Oh my God,
Yeah, you chuckle
You know
up to
what?
yourself and you do the damn job.
It's like,
Yes.
it's like you want
Butter.
Vicky
What-
Vale in her underwear for 8 pages?
All
Yeah,
right.
the
Like,
answer
I
is
get to go on a date with Bruce Wayne. Yay!
if you're a fucking pervert like C,
What
then
is
yes,
this?
you do.
Okay.
I was going to say, Butter, this is a cool story that we were talking about over the phone where Jim Lee, and correct me if I'm getting this anecdote right or wrong, that he would work out or he'd work out to John Byrne and Frank
Yeah,
Miller.
yeah.
Go ahead. No, tell the story.
So-
It's a good story.
And, I mean, it really kind of goes back to his origin, right? So to kind of piggyback off what Ed set up, when he made that arrangement with his parents, give me 1 year, I'm going to dedicate all my time to drawing comic books. Much to what Ed already covered, he'd wake up from bed and he would treat it like an 8-hour job. Even though he didn't have the job, he would spend 8 hours drawing. I mean, to the point that, he was pinching nerves in his shoulder and having bloody knuckles. But one thing that he would also do in addition to drawing is he wanted to get, I don't know, I guess he wanted to keep his physical up. So he wanted to also get stronger physically. So he'd go for, mile runs and long jogs. And what he would say underneath his breath was, Miller, Byrne, Miller, Byrne. It's like that level of dedication is unreal.
Look, you ain't an artist unless
Come
you've
on,
fucking
what?
done push-ups to fucking like Frank
Chanting to yourself.
Out, you're sitting here like in the Dark Knight Rises, like dish, dish, dish. Like you're sitting here like Neil Adams, Barry, Winslow,
Yeah.
Smith, Frank Frazetta.
That to me speaks to
Yo, that's
To me-
fucking my new
yeah,
routine.
look-
yo. I'm about to Bernie Wrightson the
God.
shit out of some
Come back
burpees.
ripped.
Jim Lee is the definition of like, that adage of like 10,000 hours equals,
Sure.
becoming a master. That dude has put in his 10,000 hours easy. Hell, his drawings to this day, I think he still says, I spend 6 to 8 hours drawing, on one sketch because I take it that serious and I think of everything.
Dude, no one's gonna fuck with you in the gym if you got like fucking 245s on each side and you're benching. You're like Bruce Tim.
Well, they might do the opposite.
They're gonna look at you like, what the fuck did that?
They might do the opposite and loser.
Not if you got 240s on each side. 345s, and you're sitting here, you're like, Nerd Adams.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, everybody knows the story as far as All-Star Batman and Robin. Okay. Do you guys want to chime in? Do you have anything to say about Frank Miller?
If you want to see Robin give Green Lantern a tracheotomy in a yellow room. This is your book.
Yeah.
If you want to see him train Robin by having him eat rats in the Batcave and kidnap a child.
You want to see Joker fuck?
Joker with
that's true.
a girl, with, a dragon tattoo.
It is
full back piece.
It is essentially you take,
randomly kill somebody.
you take Frank Miller's normal, edgy, very dark noir, and turn up the dial.
Swastika Boobs is in it.
Yeah.
If you want to see what happened to her.
Bruno.
Thank you.
Bruno.
That was a very important thing to.
This is an important footnote in
But I
Comic
mean,
Sister.
it's essentially Frank Miller turned up to like past the last number on the dial.
I think. Well, I was thinking about that.
It's pretty zany.
I don't think it's really all that turned up in the sense that Frank Miller's his rationale for doing that sort of comic that way is that for him all the silly shit happened. So like all the silly stuff that happened with Batman where it's like, hey old chum, by golly, all this stuff, like all that stuff really did happen and really did have continuity. So what would happen if you took these characters and moved them to where maybe the stakes are higher, but they still live in that really weird 50s age where it's like, what the fuck?
It's like a dark camp.
It's not for you, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It's dark camp. It's not for people who aren't comic book readers. Like you seriously have to be a comic book head to understand and appreciate All-Star Batman and Robin. Just for the fucking art alone.
The art's great.
But if you want to like get into all of it, like that's man, damn it, Ed, that's good. Dark camp.
I will say this.
Jim Lee's fault.
I will say this: if All-Star Batman and Robin had the script or the story was whatever well received better, I think we'd be saying All-Star Batman is probably Jim Lee's best work.
If they finished it,
straight up, it feels like All-Star Batman. If Hush was a 10, All-Star Batman to me art wise is like just a 10.5, just a little better. Especially like some of those covers he was doing, Jim Lee was doing. I think it's still some of his best work.
Sure.
And I think the only thing that hurts it is the fact that we all look back at the story as being like way too zany. And it's such a meme thing right now, right? Like in regards to comic book culture, All-Star Batman and Robin is a meme comic book. You know, like how many times have we heard?
Because they were going to do a
Batman?
whole line of All-Star, this, that, and the other, and that killed it. They did All-Star Superman, which is well received.
Oh my gosh.
But there was supposed to be a whole new like pocket All-Star this, All-Star that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, let's fast forward to the 2010s. Did you guys I'm going to say a word, a few words, okay? The words the new 52. Oh man, already with the okay. Ashley, do you have thoughts on the new 52? We can laugh about it now. We're past it. It's fine.
Oh man, I don't know. Like I get that it's getting hate, but
I'm right there with you.
I
Come on.
was working, I think it was when I first started working at the comic shop, and it was a huge deal.
Sure.
Like sales were amazing.
Yep.
And I was reading the Wonder Woman, and what did he do? He also did the Justice League.
I was about to say, yep.
Jim
which
Lee.
was actually pretty good.
He worked with Jeff
and then-
Johns.
Yeah, Jeff Johns, and then I remember that Superman Unchained #1 cover
With Scott
where
Snyder.
he's like just breaking through. Like it was not all bad. There was some good stuff in there.
There was it was a risk. I'll say that much about New 52. It was a risk that needed to happen. Granted, it upset a lot of the old guard of DC fans because of what they did with continuity, some of the decisions they made. But I think to bring a breath of fresh air for DC from especially like a business standpoint, Ashley, to your point, I was working at the comic shop around that time, and them books were flying off the shelves.
It's true.
Like the fact, it sucked that they reset fucking 52. They launched 52 #1. Yeah, it is too much.
It was bloated.
Yeah,
that's my only issue. But there was some good gems. I love the Batmans, the Snyder Batman, Capullo.
And our listeners might be asking like, well, what does Jim Lee have to do with it? And
I was going to say he basically was the architect with Jeff Johns.
He did the redesigns too.
I mean, and look, this is a guy. Jeff Johns was the chief creative officer. Okay, this is a title that Jim Lee would eventually get.
I'm the captain now,
right? Like it's just like it's so strange. It reminded me of like SNL when you have like people who start off as writers, then they end up head writers, and those head writers pick up another like protege that was working there. Like you got your Adam McKays who take their Tina Feys, Conan O'Brien, all this sort of thing. No stranger in comic books, right? Like it sort of happens the same way. Joe Quesada ends up running the shit. And the idea that that Jim Lee is now sort of like, this is like his meteoric rise to power as far as DC is concerned. So I don't know, like Botter, can you shed some light on that sort of stuff?
Oh yeah, like this era of Jim Lee to me is when I really started honing in. Just like seeing this well-received, world-renowned artist start, and it, for the most part, it sounds like it just kind of fell in, right? Like everything just kind of fell in place for him.
It was around the time I started talking
The invisible
to you
hand.
too. The real time I started talking to you.
But I mean, this is like watching Jim Lee's career from around this time, 2010, to on even up to this point is pretty impressive to see everything he's just kind of accomplished and done. So to C's point, when they relaunched New 52, Jim Lee and Dan Didio.
This guy.
I know. My
Daddy
bad.
love me.
I got Lee written here, and anyways, automatic. Anyways, it's a reflex.
I love you, son.
But around this time, 2010, Jim Lee and Dan Didio are both holding the titles of co-publishers of DC Comics. And one thing to remember is at this point, DC Comics is the publishing arm of the larger DC Entertainment. They launched DC Entertainment 2 years ago. DC Entertainment manages the comic book arm as well as all the IP and characters that are used in other things by its parent company, Warner Media. So, in regards to the comic books, you got Jeff Johns as the chief creative officer, and then Lee and Dan Didio running the publishing part of DC. So, a lot of the design and art direction, was coming from these three guys. So we've already mentioned that Lee was responsible for, was involved in the entire New 52. He designed, the more contemporary costumes that we now see in the DC universe.
Dude, that should influence like real life fashion.
That's what I'm saying is like, you've got artists that do redesigns of characters that now, impact and influence the title going forward before another artist decides to redesign. But Jim Lee's, I feel like his redesigns impact not just the comics for a long time to come, but also everything, but the association with the character, like X-Men. His artwork impacted the cartoons. Those video games that we all love, Marvel vs. Capcom, X-Men vs. Street Fighter. I remember
even the X-Men 4-player.
Yes, all based on his artwork. Hell, I remember reading one of these Capcom art books, and they were talking to the original artist of the series, which to me, they are some of the best. They are fantastic artists, especially the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 artist, Bingus. But they asked Bingus, like, hey, who's some of your influence? Because your art is loved in America. And he was like, well, that's crazy because Jim Lee was the guy that we were told to mimic. Because we knew we had to sell this video game and, X-Men was a hot commodity. Well, who else should we kind of copy? We don't know how to draw the X-Men. We're looking at Jim Lee.
Drill Claw.
Yeah, right?
Let's have a barrage.
So, you look at DC and his work with New 52, and those redesigns that he did not only changed their looks in the comics, but it was also like, how many times did you see that form of Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman in other merchandise shit, and in cartoons, blah, blah, blah. So you had him doing that, kind of enjoying that role. And I think Lee even says, I enjoyed being co-publisher because I didn't have to get into the weeds of the business.
For now. Did Dio?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, so he enjoyed being co-publisher. He got to be more artistic, hands-on with like the art direction, which he loved. And then the next few years, man, it was really just about enjoying the opportunity to be like the face of DC. He got to do a lot of press runs for TV shows like Face Off on Sci-Fi. He was like a special guest. He got to be involved with partnerships with like Kia Motors. They did like a Justice League campaign that was dedicated to fighting hunger in
going hungry.
Horn of Africa. He got involved with video games. He helped them design. He helped design the new version of Scorpion that showed up in the first Injustice, game. So it's like he was able to take his art and apply it across so many different mediums and get involved with everything that DC was also getting involved with.
Allow me to reintroduce myself.
Big
My name
time.
is Lee. L to the E. I used to draw Beast up in the 90s.
I would have kept letting you go. If you had another 16, I would have let you
I got
go.
like 20 bars, son.
But in addition to being involved with comics, illustration, and design, he was also putting up and standing up for other creators. And in 2013, he became a member of the advisory board for the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund, which, if you're not familiar with it, it was founded in 1986 with the goal to protect the First Amendment rights of the comics community. So, he's also given back to the community as well. And on the topic of his charity work around this time, and Good Samaritan work overall, He also toured like U.S. military bases in Kuwait with the USO as part of when DC was doing their 80th anniversary of Batman. Do you know how fucking excited I'd be if I went into drill and they were like, we've got special guest fucking Jim Lee?
It's like
what?
Everyone's like two people are like, and like one guy.
But that's so smart because you think about
That's actually horse shit.
Think
a fuck ton of people read comics
think
in the
about
military.
the relationship between the military and comics. So
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have to, but Botter and I can
Yeah.
tell you. Fucking Botter's like, yo, I fucking let people die for reading comics, dude. Yo, I've turned my back on my job on the flight line reading comics.
They're all
dude.
scrolls.
Yo, duties were expected of me, and I dishonored my country for comics, bro.
Yeah. Don't ask me about my long bathroom breaks.
Stupid.
But Ed, maybe to your point, I think you were about to say, yeah, it was probably calculated, to have Jim Lee be the face and his designs to be the face of the company. But it's kind of like, what other,
Sure.
who else would you want it to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, you look at his success. This is a guy that started as a fucking comic book artist and went well above beyond that. It's
The
like,
dude is like Michelangelo for comics. He was like the name of the Catholic Church needed a brand,
Yeah.
So they got this dude to do the Sistine Chapel, and he was like, Michelangelo, this work is so good. And the Pope was like a shitty editor, and he'd be like, could you draw maybe this person with their arms a little more foreshortened? And he, yeah, sure, I guess I will. Let me get this fucking paint out of my eye. No problem.
I'll say that it almost feels like around this time, this mid.
Actually, that was meant to be my best Italian accent. Do not
I'm
be offended.
offended.
Oh, shit.
Forget about it.
I think it's safe to say around this time, DC smartened up and decided to finally have like a house style. And I think they looked at Jim Lee and said, the guy is proven already. Let's just use him. Now I'm getting to like the last 5 years, and I'll wrap up. In 2018 is when he became the chief creative officer. That's when Jeff Johns stepped down to pursue TV and writing.
Step down.
Ed, are you saying that there is a
Just like the Godfather.
an ominous reason, or this was all
He's
deliberate?
playing chess. Everyone else is playing checkers. That's all I'm
Fair
saying.
enough. I mean, it is Jim Lee we are talking about. That's a smart ass dude. So 2018, Jeff Johns steps down. Jim Lee gets that title. 2020, Dan Didio. You know what? Maybe there is something going on. Dan Didio leaves, and now Jim Lee is the sole publisher of DC. And just for anyone curious, because I know you hear chief creative officer, publisher, you're like, what the fuck does that mean in comic books?
You don't fucking worry about it.
Means I'm rich.
It means don't worry about it.
It means I can feed my 9 children.
It means
That's
I
what
got
it means.
9 mouths to feed, motherfucker.
And essentially what it means is that Jim Lee is responsible for leading the entire creative team at DC Comics by being involved with all the design decisions and setting the overall creative direction that best aligns with like DC's business objective. And I
Carter,
get it.
why
and I
is
get
that on your? You have one of those visionary boards. It says, "Be Marvel Chief Creative Officer, so my father will love me more." That's strange. It's so precise and so specific. It's Fire C. What the fuck?
Whoa.
Damn it! I thought I erased that.
Yo, get that vision
Do
board out.
you
of
know
here.
who the chief creative officer over at Marvel is? Just curious.
Oh, should we?
Kevin fucking Feige. So it's
Oh.
like Jim Lee holds that same title. But anyways,
Kevin.
Hey, Ed. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
Did you know I'm wearing Black Panther socks right now? Why don't you take a look at him?
look at my feet, Ed. Look at them.
Behold the Spider Gooch in his glory.
But the last thing I'll mention as far as Jim Lee's recent contributions, and I think this one's important to note, that not even a month after getting that title of
Serious
winning
voice.
both fucking major titles, being chief creative officer and publisher, is when the COVID pandemic really started popping off. We started experiencing the lockdowns, and I think we all remember how tough those times were for a lot of small businesses,
Right.
especially comic shops,
Yep.
right? Comic shops are closing left and right. They weren't
Somehow Jim Lee managed to cure COVID. So
not cure COVID, but
No, I
but
thought
damn
that's what you were
near,
gonna
but damn
say.
near
Oh,
held
you're
up
just-
the entire comic
It's not what it says in the
retail
notes.
store.
Let's see here.
Around this time is when Lee starts his 60 in 60 series,
Jesus, man.
where he started drawing a different sketch a day over the course. It was supposed to be for 60 days, but of course that kind of got extended. Busy ass schedule, right? But he drew a sketch a day for an extended period of time. That series actually just ended in July of last year with a Jason Todd sketch, which I think is kind of beautiful that it comes back
Nice
around,
to
right?
come back around.
That sold for over $25,000.
Jesus.
I think that was the highest one, but each one sold a lot of fucking money, right? But each sketch was auctioned off, and the proceeds from each of those were used to provide support and assistance for local comic shops and people running them that were like, having a hard time during the lockdowns. Overall, he raised over $800,000 from his sketches alone. And he was doing it all, man, from like little headshots. At first, it was just headshots, and he was like, oh, people are putting some money on these. And then he started doing like actual materials that could be used for like fucking comic covers. And then he started, hey, I can also paint too. You guys want to buy some paintings too? Started doing some paint sketches. And I mean, he covers everyone in the DC universe. Some of my favorite include a Batman Red Rain sketch. Looks great. He did a Deadman sketch that was awesome. An Ace the Bat Hound that, I mean, you just want to pet it. I mean, that's just how good he draws it.
That's saying something, considering when he started his career, people saw something that they could use. Like, if you're a little kid and maybe you saw Jim Lee's early artwork, maybe you liked it for some reason and it just resonated with you and you don't know why, right? As, look at, a publishing company would look at his artwork and they would see, working cog and big machine can make equal money, right? They're not wrong, but it also kind of leads to the downfall of not being able to see what the modern age is, what it represents. And Jim Lee is the forefront, if not one of the progenitors of the modern age of comics. That's not too far of a thing to say, right?
Nope.
So you can't. It is, and this goes across the board as far as art's concerned. As soon as you start diminishing people to cogs and little wheels in a small machine, you really end up not seeing what they can contribute. Because now look at this guy. This guy's using his powers for good. He's taking a sketch, something that could be valued as much as something Michelangelo would have done, right? Freaking, he raised $800,000 and saying, this thing I drew on paper or on a tablet now translates to somebody's livelihood being
well said.
Like, they can put food on their fucking family's table now. Like, damn it, like running a comic book store is fucking hard, man.
Yeah.
Especially during a fucking pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's sitting here like, I didn't forget where I came from. I didn't forget what fucking brought me.
Yeah.
You guys, these guys aren't little cogs to me. So here's what I'm going to do. Here are my fucking powers for good. Damn, Jim Lee. What a mensch.
He
man.
wears his love of comics on his sleeve.
Good,
and
dude.
that's why I still respect him to this day. Even though I feel like we can go another 2 hours talking about,
For sure.
more of his work. But I want to get to a good stopping point and put a nice bow on this dedication. Ashley, I'm going to go to you, right? If people want to learn more about Jim Lee or see his talents for themselves, what are some of your favorite essential readings when it comes to Jim Lee or recommendations that you'd share? And if you want to share any closing words or last thoughts that you have on the topic of Jim Lee, feel free to.
I learned so much about him. The first time I actually saw him was I was watching Face Off. And, I've been to comic book conventions and I know what, a lot of the comic book creators look like. And then this guy shows up and he looked just so much younger than I thought he was going to be. And
Asian
was like,
jeans.
yeah, he's like super charming. I was like, this is Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of I wasn't expecting it at all. And then to find out that he's like in charge of all this stuff and he's like the face of New 52, which I actually really did like. I think at the end of the day, Batman Hush, I think everyone kind of will agree like that is, if you haven't read it, you need to read it. And I did like his Justice League run with Jeff Johns. It wasn't like super long, but it was really good. But yeah, and I think my favorite part is, I don't know if DC's still doing this, but they would put out these variant covers, which was just like the pencils. You guys remember those? They did that for a while.
Yes.
But the like the Jim Lee ones, there was something about them, like something about just seeing like his raw pencils.
The God
like
bleeds.
Yes, he's just like
he's mortal
incredible.
like me.
And I'll say this about his recent work is that I feel like I think he's had Scott Williams and Alex Sinclair on, working with him and making his artwork even better than ever so long that I think at this point he's probably picked up a thing or two from them. And I feel like his inking on his own artwork or his own sketches is fantastic versus, looking back in his, very beginnings where it's like, oof, there's something missing here. I think he's kind of found that currently.
Yeah. You can find it in his proteges, people like Ryan Benjamin, I don't know if you guys have seen his work. That guy's amazing. He's really good. Solid.
Yeah, you look
artist.
at just like his pencil work and you're like, oh no, this dude has been studied Jim Lee. Well said. Ed, what about you, man?
He was one of my first, I guess, comic book art heroes. That makes sense. But it's just something that happened, when I got introduced to the Image guys, and then my taste became more esoteric and weird, and I like some of the stranger cats drawing. But he is remarkable. Like I said, I think if you want to see him at his zenith, Hush, I think it's kind of like a unanimous get Hush. They do a new printing of that every year. So it's easy to find. You can get it. Just get the whole collection. That's some of probably his best work I've seen. But like I said, it's a great story. It's a great origin story. I learned a lot about him as well, just because I didn't know much about him outside him, running DC and, just from his art. But like I said, he's an incredible story. He's like almost him and Todd are kind of like two sides of the same coin. They both became, kind of leaders in their own separate companies, where Todd kind of went on his own, and then Jim Lee went the high-ranking executive route. So it's kind of seeing how those two careers kind of split, and is like, Todd would call him and Liefeld and Lim like the L boys. He's the L boy that did really good. Like I said, of all the Image guys, like I said, he has a great story.
Well said. See, I know you've said a lot this episode, but I'll ask for just a couple more words,
enough.
Man.
I've said enough. I mean, I almost want to hit you with enough said, dude. I almost want to hit you with that.
Well, give us just wrap or give us recommendations.
Sure.
What are your go-to Jim Lee recs?
I mean, look, we're all going to say Hush. I'm also going to say any and everything he's done X-Men. Get your fucking hands on it. Because I think,
cannot gloss
like
over that.
Kirby, growing up, a lot of people respected him, but maybe for those old cats, he was like what you were saying. Like, you kind of take these art, not that we consciously take them for granted, but at a subconscious level, because they were there for us during our formative years, right? So like, we think, oh, okay, what else is out there, right? Like, I'm like Ed. I like a lot of weird shit, but that's because Jim Lee kind of paved the way for all that modern weird shit that's out there right now.
Image stuff was a gateway to a lot of that
big
stuff.
Big time. Just like, anyway, I'll just say I recommend X-Men. Anything X-Men that he has done, you cannot go wrong. The artwork is beautiful, and it still holds up,
Absolutely.
which is crazy. It's fucking nuts that it still holds up. Like, it doesn't look weird or dated. Like, it's just like fucking like ODB from the Wu-Tang Clan, man. They ain't no father to his style. That's it.
Yo, often imitated but never duplicated.
Yeah.
I think you will find a lot of artists now that try to aim for the fine lines, the hyper details, but there's only one Jim Lee. I feel like that is the thing about Jim Lee, is that he has solidified his brand and his look. Like, you could look at, a Jim Lee piece when you see a Jim Lee piece, and to me, he's very inspiring, especially his story, right? It sounds like he's a magnet for success. It sounds like, these opportunities and these things kind of just fall in his lap. But it'd be foolish not to think that he hasn't put in those 10,000 hours of practice, that he isn't, constantly refining his craft, that he doesn't love what he's doing.
That's one of the things, too, he says about talking to artists. He would ask them, like, how long did you draw? Because you talk about the 10 hours. It's like, oh, I just drew this last night. It's like, okay, what time? When did you draw before that? It's like, oh, the last year before I met you, I drew then. It's like, he said that a lot of these guys have a lot of people have the talent, but it's that work ethic, putting those hours in. You can't.
Artists wait for inspiration. Professionals do the job every day.
Exactly. Well, and that's, I hate, I'm comparing him with his Image brethren, but that's like the McFarlane thing. He's like a athlete. He took that kind of drive to make himself better.
Right.
Yeah. Dude is when I think Jim Lee comic books, to me, they are blockbusters, right? Like, they feel like a movie event. Like, this is the summer blockbuster that, every channel and radio show is going to be hyping up. Like, there's a machine behind it, and for good reason. So I'll go ahead and recommend some things that kind of highlight his story, because, everyone has recommended some great material as far as like his comic stuff. But His appearance on Stan Lee's Comic Greats TV series, which you can find on YouTube, which Cesar
I sampled it.
sampled
Oh,
it
you
for the
think he
intro.
looks young now?
Man,
he looks like a
He's
little
next
kid.
to Stan Lee. He for real looks like a little boy.
Yeah. But there's I believe on YouTube, it's like an 8-part video, but worth watching, especially just to see this Jim Lee like do what he does so effortlessly. I mean, he is constantly amazing Stan Lee in this entire video where he's like, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah, one thing too he mentioned. Sorry, I just remembered this. Is like he said he even took like a mime class to get to apply that to like dynamic figure, like weight.
That's
and, like,
right.
shifting weight.
That's
and,
Interesting
awesome.
dude.
and another funny when that sprung into mind. I just listened to interview with Sergio Aragonis, and he took a mime class with Joe Dorowski.
Jesus Christ.
In Mexico when he had to lay low for a while.
You know what's funny? I'm finding out more and more people that I fuck with were mimes, i.e. David Bowie, before he did music, went like professionally trained as a mime.
Yeah.
There might be something
Huge
there.
mime dude. So now, guys, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to be a mime.
Do it.
The rest of this episode.
Everyone's going to be like, thank God.
C is going to be the talking mime.
Thank fucking
The
God.
first talking mime. There's a wall over here.
But to wrap up my recommendations, I'll also suggest watching The Image Revolution. It's a documentary, I believe it's on Amazon Prime maybe, but it follows the rise and fall of Image Comics publication, told from the people who started it. Jim Lee's, heavily featured on that film. And last but not least, there is a book that came out in 2017 called Icons, the DC Comics and Wildstorm art of Jim Lee.
Right.
Came out like in 2010. It collects his work on Batman, Superman, as well.
Spoilers.
Hit it.
Eric Larson was always bald.
Fool. But this book not only collects Batman and Superman, but also his work on Wildstorm, Wildcats, Divine Right, Deathblow, all that. It's in a nice hardback. Includes some interviews with Jim Lee, as well as a tour of his studio.
Beautiful.
And a whole bunch of full color illustrations.
Yo,
and
I'm Jim
pencils.
Lee. Welcome MTV Cribs to my house.
Actually, did you watch the very last bit of that Comics Greats where he gives a tour of the Wildstorm Studios? And it is the most shit-looking studio. It's like
Of course it
the
is.
most regular-looking office ever.
Yo, this is my pencil. What? I only draw an F, son. Fuck HB.
Yo, that's
fuck
funny.
2B. I draw an Fs.
All right, Short Box Nation. I'm going to turn the tables on you guys and ask for you to chime into the conversation and tell us your thoughts on Jim Lee. Does his career or artwork mean something to you? Do you have any fond memories of picking up his books or attempting to draw like him? Let us know. Write us a short email and send it to our inbox at theshortboxjacks@gmail.com.
Keyword being short, because
Yes, please.
we're allowed to gush about Jim Lee. You are not.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But we'll read it next episode. We're going to move on to our first regular recurring segment where you'll get to choose between violence or literature. Don't
Jesus.
worry. We
Oh.
made the choice for you. It's time for Fistful of Comics.
You can either have a mouthful of teeth or a fistful of comics.
Fistful of Comics is the part of the show dedicated to all you Wednesday warriors who look forward to New Comic Book Day every week. Think of this as a show and tell highlighting only the best new comics on the shelves right now and those coming to a spinner rack near you. The segment is brought to you by Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier shop for comics, toys, collectibles, and more. If you live in the area or ever find yourself passing through Jacksonville, stop by the shop on Southside Boulevard and tell them the Shortbox sent you. For the sake of time, because I feel like we've talked your ears off, Shortbox Nation, I'm just going to share
You
Ben's.
fucking love it.
Whoa.
Well, some of them even pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm just going to share Ben's top 3 new comics list and keep it moving so we can get to all the emails we got this week.
Cool.
So let's talk about what you can add to your Fistful of Comics with the help of our good friend, Ben Kingsbury.
Kingsbury.
He's the owner of Gotham City Limit Comic Shop, and he loves recommending comic books as much as Cesar's old ass loves Werther originals. So let's cue up the music.
Wait, what?
Dang, man.
I actually fucking hate those candies so much.
So let's cue up the music and see what he's got for us this week. His first recommendation is Devil's Reign, Moon Knight #1. It's a one-shot by Jed McKay and artist Federico Sabatini. It's part
Is that a
of the
Misfits reference?
Well, it's part of the new Daredevil Devil's Reign crossover thing.
I
going on.
wonder.
But according to Ben, he writes, it combines 2 of my favorite storylines going on right now, Moon Knight and Wilson Fisk's Thunderbolt, which is enough to get me on board, so consider signing up. Number 2 is from Volt Comics. It's called Fox and Hair #1. It's by Jonathan Sui. I believe I'm saying that right. And artist Stacy Lee. It's a story about black market coders, mega corporations, and mercenaries. The art looks stunning. and Ben predicts that early on that it's going to be a sleeper hit, and he recommends that you hop on it. Last but not least, his third recommendation comes from Image Comics. It's Rogue Sun #1. It's going to be a new ongoing series from writer Ryan Parrott and Abel, and an artist named Abel. According to Ben, it reminds him of Radiant Black crossed with Nocturna. This is billed as a supernatural murder mystery. Ben writes, it's right up my alley and adds another layer to Image's ever-growing superhero universe. If it's anything like Radiant Black, I'll check it out. All right, so there's your forecast for next month. Put those titles on your pull list by next week if you don't want to miss out. Take it from our friends at Gotham City Limit who run the best shop in town. Any of those that we just shared will probably be worth checking out. Now, we got some emails from listeners to read up next, but before we do that, we deserve a short break, all right? We want to go refill our drinks, drink some of this soju. I got some kimchi in the fridge.
I'll drink the kimchi.
So we're going to go on a short music break. It'll be real quick, all right? But today's instrumental comes from DJ Crumbs. He's a DJ, a beat maker, an artist, and a friend of the show. He does it all.
Stick around. We're going to appropriate the fuck out of Jim Lee's fucking culture.
DJ Crumbs has got us covered today for the music. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back to business after this short break. Once again, Shortbox Nation, the music you just heard was by DJ Crumbs. Check out the link in our show notes to see some of the art he makes and sells when he's not making dope beats. It's the least you could do, right? I mean, he's always here providing good music. But we've got some emails to read. We've got a few to catch up from last week, and then we got some new ones that came in this week.
True story.
Before I jump into those, I want to share, I want to spotlight a listener. And one of the kindest things that I've seen done here on this show
I know what you're about to
in
say.
a long time. It proves that, we might not have any hearts, but our listeners damn sure do. So if you remember last week, I read an email from a Corin Horn. Ed, I think you had made a joke about his name, and then C, you chimed in with like, damn, even his name sounds like a Star Wars name or something like that. Well, Corin Horn ended up winning that Star Wars comic book that we gave away.
Ahsoka, yeah.
And I ended up reaching back out and trying to get his address, and I realized, that's Derek Lee, longtime listener.
Yo, you
Derek
put my man's fucking government name out there like that.
We've read everyone's government name.
How dare you? How dare
All right,
you?
well, all right. Well, DL.
No, I want you to get shit like T-Mix gave me shit.
So it ended up being Derek Lee, and I'm like, Derek, well, you had us fooled with Cornhorn. It turns out Cornhorn is a Star Wars character from the EU. So it made sense, right?
Nailed it.
I'll give him points. I'll give him points for being thematic, but so I reached out to Derek. I said, hey, Derek, you won this comic book. Where can I send it? And you know what he tells me? B, I've already bought that. I've been on that. You guys, the minute you guys brought it up, I went and bought a copy from Gotham City Limit. Go ahead and share that or send that comic book to Andy Callahan. And because he had such a great email title last week. And I mean, if you guys recall, I was the one that said Andy should have won anyways.
I did it all
his
for the
email
Wookiee.
title, I did it all for the Wookiee. Even Derek Lee
kept it
liked
regional.
it so much that he gave that way. So I say all that to say that Derek Lee is a great guy. Big shout out to Derek Lee for having such a big heart.
Listeners, this is the kind of encouraging, behavior we want to try and have on the podcast.
Try, aspire.
It's a good thing that guys like Derek exist and guys like Andy exist. Actually, that's not true because it makes everybody else look bad. So stop being so fucking nice out there, listeners. It's disgusting. We want you to sow discord.
I already got this. You can send it to someone else to share.
Yeah.
Get out of here,
Real
bro.
I'm a nice person.
Yeah.
My name's Derek.
Yeah.
Ew.
Listen, Cornhorn, you're banned. You're banned. Banned from the future contest.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Fuck you, Corin. How about that? Yo, this is how we reward. This is how we reward niceness on the show.
Yeah,
Ashley,
man.
what are your thoughts?
Banned.
I'm taking no part in this. So you guys are awful.
Oh, smelling like a rose, Ashley
Anyways,
over there. Oh, real nice.
I didn't know it was going to go that deep and dark, so my apologies, Derek.
No, this is how we reward people. This is how
Ashley
we talk
texted
nice
me.
about people on the show.
She just texted me, say ban him. Got it.
All right, well, that was a setup.
I can actually co-sign on that. That was an
and me too.
actual text that Ashley
thrice.
sent.
Me thrice. I can see the email or the text. But that was the setup because our first email that we'll read today actually comes from Andy Callahan.
Here we go. Andy Callahan writes
Need
with
you
a novel.
charity?
He said, "I'm just gonna keep talking about Star Wars," is what he wrote. To my surprise, a package showed up from the short box. It's anthrax. Don't open it.
Too late.
Fortunately, I never hit send on the hate-filled, scathing manifesto email I had originally wrote. Instead, I wanted to thank Shortbox Crew as well as other emailers that got shafted out of this major award. Honestly, I was so excited when I got the book that my wife and I started rewatching the Clone Wars. My wife and I actually have restarted the Clone Wars as
I
well.
didn't know where that was going.
I'm going to champion a couple of shows. The Expanse on Prime, Season 6 just dropped, and maybe my favorite sci-fi show ever. I hear good things. And Hit Monkey on Hulu. These are some of the shows I've invested in because all my other shows got canceled, i.e. Cowboy Bebop, Jupiter's Legacy, and Why the Last Man. I'm really enjoying Boba Fett. I am too. I like that they refer to the teenager with body modification as mods, being a nod to English 60s mods with tricked out scooters, even if it is a little too on the nose, ? You're right. I've been waiting 40 years to see a Wookiee actually rip someone's arm. You need help. Makes me excited for the shows and movies that they have slated. And he lists them. Kenobi, Ahsoka, The Real Housewives of Mos Eisley, Spice Road Truckers, Danny Trejo, The Rancor Whisperer.
I'd watch that too.
You have to establish dominance with the Rancor. Anyway, Galactic Lampoon's Alderaan Vacation. What do you mean it's not there? I'm okay.
All right, Andy.
Okay, all right, Andy. Workshopping here. I see what you're doing. Dances with Tuskens. That's racist. Throw Mama from the Spice Train and The Many Saints of Mos Espa.
Spice Train. Is that a Dune?
These are your question could be applied to all of Star Wars. Is that a Dune reference?
It's all Dune.
Is that a Dune reference? Also want to champion some Star Wars. The OG Clone series by Genndy Tartakovsky. Yes, fucking hell yes.
Classic.
I think is now, it seems, edited a little weird, but for a long time, my favorite Star Wars property. That's because it's art. And some pretty fun cracked.com videos. I'll send you the link. And then there's like a weird Pornhub.
That's just for me.
Sorry. Thanks for everything, Andy from Jack's Beach. Thank you, Andy. Appreciate
shout out
that.
to Andy, man.
Yo, shout out to Andy for
I
real.
see him over here trying to vie for a fifth host.
He's
spot.
trying. He's
All right.
trying. It's
We're already at
a long
capacity.
email. It's long.
Watch out, Ashley. He's in your neck of the woods.
It's long.
That's
right.
true.
Nobody listens when we say keep the email short. Yes, I'd like to say something to the short box. 5 hours later.
All right, I'm gonna keep it on Star Wars. 'Cause This is one that we missed from last week, and I think it should be our last Star Wars themed email.
Episode.
Sorry about
Oh.
that.
That is not going to
that's a
work,
Freudian
Potter.
slip.
That is not going to
Or
work.
last Star
All right,
Wars episode.
This one comes from a good friend of the show, frequent co-host,
Bard of Darkness.
co-guest, our buddy Warren
Just
Evans
from Warren Evans. Come on.
over there at Simpsons is Greater Than.
Show him some fucking love. Hey, Shortbox crew. First of all, I just want to say thanks for the solid content throughout most of 2021, including a great
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, we
Shut
ran
up,
that
man.
shit.
Oh.
including a great live show. Much love to you all.
Most.
Secondly, and more importantly, I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars.
Dum dum dum.
Star Wars has had its up. Stop, bro. You're gonna need to stop getting texts while I'm trying to read these emails.
All right, I'm popular.
Whoever fucking XX hamster videos is, they need to stop sending you notifications while I'm trying to read this shit. Okay,
Free
I
30
should-
day trial.
I should
right?
I should have just sent you the
It's
emails.
horrible. Secondly, and more importantly, I want to talk a little bit about Star Wars has had its ups and downs over the last 45 years. That should take no one by surprise. However, I take issue with some of the issues spoken on by Cesar.
Oh.
Shocker. In all honesty, I don't think it's fair to look at the, quote, uncanonization, unquote, of so many of the stories as a slight towards the creators of that content. I think if we want Star Wars to live and create new characters and stories, someone had to sift through all that noise and decide what was manageable in an ongoing story with lots of moving parts. I think a healthy way to look at legends, the legend side of it all, is to see them like a campfire stories told in a universe that are based on, quote, real stories within Star Wars, but that get some things wrong or confuse details within reality. Furthermore, I think creating new stories like The Mandalorian and even several characters brought to light through shows like The Clone Wars and Rebels, while also strengthening the background and lore behind characters like Boba Fett, is the best way to really bring people into this huge connected world or characters. I should read this with a Mickey Mouse voice. Oh. Some will obviously stand out. Others will seem a bit retold. But we have to see how these things get tied in to decide how worth it was. I think we saw how worth it can be with Mando. That's racist. Boba Fett was given so much life in Clone Wars, and I think that introduced a whole bunch of people to a deeper version of him, especially with his age in that show and with the connection to his origin. I think it only makes sense that he still has stories to tell. Lastly, Rogue One is fucking great, and I, for one, do want a show about Cassian, whoever he is. Sign me up for more backstory on any of those characters, especially because of their proximity to other characters from other stories and lots of cool Easter eggs and depth. There is a whole world within that story that is meaningful, especially if you read the book, quote, Catalyst, unquote. Lastly, part 2, Boba Fett. Hang with me, Ed.
Hang in there.
Lastly, part 2, Boba Fett doesn't have rat tails. Those Wookiee scalps, those are Wookiee scalps because he's a bad motherfucker. Peace and love, except to C's hating ass, Warren. Thoughts, ladies and gentlemen?
Oh, I kind of blanked out in the middle of that.
Okay.
But I don't know. I see where he's coming from.
Sure.
I'm not.
I think all the points he made didn't have anything with the points I made the episode we talked about it. I was more or less criticizing art versus entertainment, and I think he's more or less coming at it from an entertainment perspective, which, cool. But don't try and piss down my back and convince me it's raining, man. These characters aren't good because they're characters. They're
shit
good
in my mouth and calling it ice cream sundae.
They're good because the writers are good.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about when we were talking about following writers and artists instead of brands.
Or that's even with like WandaVision, where you see like the 20 minutes of credits. Like, it's good. It's all these people.
Right. Anyway,
I don't know. I think it is a different argument.
Yeah.
I will go ahead and shamelessly plug. If you want to hear Warren on our show talking about Simpsons, you can check him out on episode 344, where me, C, and Warren once all shared a laugh.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
I'm playing around.
It's another one of Botter's side podcasts.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Ashley, how do you feel about Botter cheating on the show?
Ashley, I will go. I will literally pull up one of your podcasts right now and play it. All right, don't just from now on. Just be like, I don't know. Just
Botter,
say no
look
comment.
her in the eye. Look her in the eye, Botter. Look her. Look at your child.
Here, Ashley,
look at
I'm
your
looking
child.
at you in the eye right now, Ashley.
Botter, you've been late with these support payments. I'm gonna tell you right now. You need to fucking come correct.
Yo, what about when Cesar was on straight chilling for like a whole bunch of years?
I left that show for this show. I made time. Okay, Robbie, if you're listening, you know I came at you straight. I was like, if I don't have time for the short box, Botter will beat me. I'm a battered husband.
Oh no,
you know how this is.
Call the cops.
Justin, Robbie, you know how it is. If you're listening, Andy, you know.
All right.
Botter beats me. Call the cops.
And I will continue beating you if you don't read the
Oh
rest
my
of the emails.
God!
Actually, here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to read this one here because we got it from our got to be our Instagram, right? And I always invite our listeners to hit us up on our DMs.
This slide into our fucking DMs, bro.
Well, I think this is a first time emailer for sure, or whatever, emailer for sure.
I'm excited.
And long time. It sounds like also a new listener. I apologize, not long time, new listener.
Okay.
He goes by the name of Pharaoh Ramses.
Jesus Christ, Pharaoh Ramses.
We got royalty hitting us up.
Yo, this guy's scary. Okay. from Pharaoh Ramses. Oh, damn. He's got Pharaoh Ramses II in like small text underneath.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's getting biblical. Hey, Shortbox, big fan here.
Oh.
I've met Botter, and I used to work with Ed. Big fan.
I
Ed,
know who this is.
you know who it is?
Yeah.
Okay. In response to Cesar's comment about Tony Stark being the Uncle Ben figure on the No Way Home review episode, I feel like he was. But I still liked and needed to hear Aunt May say, with great power, etc., etc., etc. I feel like the ethos of that from Tony was in Homecoming when he and Peter go back and forth, and Peter says, "I'm nothing without the suit," and Tony replies, "You're nothing. Then you're nothing. If you're nothing without it, then you shouldn't have it." That kind of gave me that similar ethos, that because you have the power, you have to be worthy of it, which translates similarly to me. Just my humble opinion. Keep making awesome podcasts.
I appreciate you reaching
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
Pharaoh.
no, we appreciate that. Pharaoh Ramses II, who imprisoned my people and ancestors numerous years ago. That's cool.
Yeah, that's water underneath the bridge.
Yeah, water under the bridge.
Just
Water
40
under the
years.
bridge.
40 years in the desert.
Yeah, we
It's okay.
only fucking celebrate it every year.
All right. Well, see, did you have any thoughts to share on his comment?
No. It's. I mean, I think it's a common thing that most people are saying. I mean, for the MCU, it has to kind of be that way, right?
Mhm.
Like, they're not obviously not going to go back in time and retroactively create an Uncle Ben type character. Spider Ben, I'm Spider Ben.
Get out of here.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's nice to hear that with great power comes great responsibility, and
He
I have
has
no
to have
problem
that
with
loss.
that. He not only has to have that loss, he has to have the loss as a result of his selfishness.
Yeah.
That's what makes Spider-Man, and that's what makes him human.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes him good, right? Because if anybody says that they're not capable of doing that, they're fucking full of shit.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Spider-Man's fucking awesome because the first thing he did with his powers was try to get that money.
Mm-hmm.
He hustled, man.
Respect it.
Right? And it cost him a loved one's life. Not only a loved one, but someone he looked up to, right? And the person's like fucking almost dying words or words that he lived by were, not
Revenge me?
Avenge me.
My nephew.
It wasn't with great power comes great responsibility. The actual quote is, with great power, there must also come great responsibility, right? So,
God, talk dirty to me, dude.
dude, I'm just saying. So, like, to have that sort of like ham-fisted, it's not. Look, I understand the fucking MCU is trying to do something different. I get it. I don't hate it for being different. I'm just saying it ain't as good as the fucking movies that preceded it, where like you feel the loss. You see Spider-Man
And
be
the
like,
impact
fuck.
coming like 3 movies in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
it's like
that would encourage.
It's a different effect.
Yeah. That would encourage somebody to put on pajamas and beat the fuck out of someone because they live with that guilt every day.
Yeah.
Just to be like, I got bit by a spider, so I guess I should wear pajamas and save people's lives. That's not realistic to me. That's not human to me. You know?
You know who would do that? Derek Lee.
Derek fucking Lee.
Derek Lee, patron saint Derek Lee.
Cornhorn?
Well, that would make Derek Lee Superman, not Spider-Man.
Yeah, good point. All right, well, Pharaoh, thank you so much for reaching out.
Appreciate
with
it.
that email.
Yeah, man. Thank
good
you.
stuff. Love hearing people's
Yeah,
perspective.
we give you shit because we love you. Or we just give you shit.
I got 2 more to go through and we'll get to champion season. This next one, I mean,
T-Mix!
what kind of email segment would this be if we didn't get one from our
T-Mix,
boy
carnal.
T-Mix?
Yo, órale, vato. Here we go. ¿Qué pasa, carnal? All right. Geeky train goes choo choo that's the subject.
Oh, okay.
Geeky train goes choo choo. Because fucking Bonner decided to bring back No, don't even smile with your little smug, self-satisfied
Tweet,
smile.
motherfuckers.
Jesus Christ. Also, I secretly love that baby bird shit. Yo, what's up, Shortbox? I'm sorry for the long emails, Botter. See, you get it, T-Mix. I get hyped and ramble. I'll do better, but not this time. JK.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, actually, it's pretty short looking. Anyway, y'all's artist spotlight EPs are the best. I love how much y'all prepare. It helps novices like me to learn about the epic shit we missed on and need to check out. Respect. I got 3 champions today. First, Batman One Dark Knight book 1. DC Black Label 3. The DC Black Label 3-part series by Jock. Sorry, there's a lot of numbers and it's throwing me off. The art is awesome, and the story is where Bats, in my opinion, is best at the street level. Talk dirty to me, T-Max. Batman meets 16 blocks. Oh, that's kind of cool. Second, the trailer for the Super Bowl halftime show, Hype Incarnate. And last but not least, I Want a Champion Shortbox episode 295, top 5. The crew, look at you got a little boner when people champion the show.
Oh, man. That means you're
Sick
listening.
bastard. Also, keep going. I Want to Champion the Shortbox episode 295, quote, top 5. The crew is in top tier from the jump. Who's Botter's top 5 artists? Jim Lee, Jim Lee, Jim Lee, Jim Lee, Jim Lee, Jim Lee, Jim Lee.
That's right.
Because he draws hot fire. I mean, you see that Catwoman versus Lady Shiva fight? Whew. Tweet, mofos, B. Hasta la próxima, mis amigos. T-Mix. Wow. A positive goodbye.
Look, man.
Until next time, my friends. Nothing bad from T-Mix.
No
T-Mix
PS? Scroll down some more.
Nothing. Wow. What a gentleman. Gracias, caballero.
No pendejo?
No pendejo.
And for
Wow,
those
smooth.
that might have not heard that episode 295, top 5.
It's a fucking banger. Right? Is that what you're going to say?
Something like that.
All right,
You said it for me. But that's the episode where we talked about our top 5 favorite artists. I do remember Jim Lee being pretty high on that one. So
Yeah, of course you did. You said them 5 times.
I don't remember 5 times.
But let's rewind. I am Butter. I said it 5 times. See, I have it recorded.
You're right.
already.
I mean, T-Mix wouldn't lie. He did put it down here.
He
So.
wouldn't lie. Come on.
Well, T-Mix, I hope you appreciated this Artist Spotlight episode. Let us know what you
Dude.
think about it, right?
Yeah, we fucking represented your boy.
And last, but not least, I'll go ahead and take care of this one because it needs some context. This one comes from a good friend of the show, Zach Armour. We actually had him on, I believe, our Suicide Squad episode, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow, okay.
I had posted something on Instagram about the Patreon Unlocked episode, the Justice League animated series. So the post was that I shared the Justice League Unlimited and Spider-Man animated episodes that we put up.
Okay.
I said something to the effect of, we're spotlighting 2 of the best comic book cartoons ever made, Justice League Unlimited and Spider-Man animated series. Zach replied with, bold statement you have there with them little fucking creepy ass eyes. You know, the ones that like say a lot of shit. It's like the shit talking eye emoji, right?
Wow.
The sly one.
The side eye.
And I said, bold? You don't think these are 2 of the
It's a
best?
fucking safest statement you could make.
You don't think these are 2 of the best? Would love to hear your list. What your list is comprised of. Send it via email and I'll read it. His email is very straight to the point as a response to what I wrote on Instagram. It's top 2 comic book animated shows. So these are his personal top 2 comic book cartoons. Number 1, TMNT. I'm assuming the OG series. He didn't write anything besides that, but let's just assume. And number 2 is X-Men. I'm not mad at those.
Wait, those are his top 2 of all time?
I'm assuming so.
Interesting.
I'm not mad at those, but I also feel like saying Justice League Unlimited is a top, one of the
More
top,
than Batman the Animated Series?
I'm saying among the, I'd say if there was a top 3, I think you got to put Justice League Unlimited up there, along with, I think, BTAS.
I don't think you have to.
I think you can make an argument for it.
I think wow, you said BTAS.
Ah,
Damn.
Sometimes it's quicker.
That's fucking sweet.
Super nerd.
BTAS.
Hashtag BTS.
It sounds like that Korean pop band. I was like, what are we talking about here? I don't know. Yeah. X-Men's good. I think BTAS is good. I'm going to say the new, this is like circa 2012 or 14. That version of the TMNT cartoon, the computer animated one, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
If you like TMNT,
TMNT is hard because there's like so many series.
the
Yeah,
Nickelodeon, not the one where they're like 2D animated. Like it's the one where like Sean Astin is Leonardo or he's Raphael. Sorry.
This is the one with no Shredder, right? This is like a whole.
No, Shredder's in it.
Is he? Okay.
Yeah.
What am I thinking?
Dude, it's like
so many.
it's
That's what I'm saying.
old school
So
and
many.
it's really good. Like, oh man, I actually have the art of that show, like book, like the hardback. So much went into it. They do a lot of like Cronenberg references intentionally.
Huh.
And it's not like too
This
edgy
one
for
April's
kids.
a little kid, right?
Yes, she's a
Okay.
teenager.
Okay.
Ashley, what are your like top 2 favorite comic book cartoons? We've done a lot of, you've been a part of a lot of the pilot license episodes. I think it's safe to say you've been exposed to a lot of comic book cartoons for the first time. What are some of your favorite ones that we've done?
I mean, Justice League is the only one that I made it through the whole thing.
She's like, I'm not a baby. I fucking live my life and I watch adult television.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of like episodes here and there, but that's the only one that I've seen like every episode and like kind of invested in.
That's what I'm saying.
Ashley's like, I watch fucking HBO Spun.
Anyways, I appreciate you following up on that, Zach.
Yeah, Zach, I
Um,
recommend The Tick. If you like the Venture Brothers, wouldn't be
yeah.
here
Another
without Ben Edlund, because Ben Edlund and Jackson Public were roommates in college, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And, and I think the only episode of Venture Brothers that has not been written by both Doc Hammer and Jackson Public has been by Ben Edlund, who created and wrote for The Tick. So,
and specify which TMNT. I'm just curious.
yeah, for real.
That's
Yeah.
cool. It is now time, though, to champion our favorite entertainment picks from across the larger pop culture universe. Only the cream of the crop get talked about in the next segment. So I recommend you turn up the volume and pay close attention to what we're about to share with you.
Champion Season.
Champion Season is the part of the show where we highlight other worthwhile entertainment, media, and recommendations that deserves your attention. These can be much more than comics, but include movie picks, TV series, books, or video games, and anything else we're hyped on this week. This segment is brought to you by Black Hive Tattoo, Jacksonville's premier appointment-only custom tattoo studio. If you're searching for a group of talented artists who will work with you to bring your comic culture ideas to life, then look no further. Go to blackhivetattoo.com and sign up for the newsletter to find out when they're taking new project requests. See, since you're back in the studio, I want you to go and kick us off. What are you going to champion today?
The Moon Knight trailer came out. That's going to be my first champion. That shit looks delicious. And I'm not trying to be like fucking, hey guys, smash that like button. And by the way, we fucking love Disney so much. So we're going to talk about all the Easter eggs you missed in the Moon Knight trailer. No, fuck that shit. It legitimately looks decent. Looks pretty good.
Creepy.
I've always found Moon Knight to be, and I'm going to say it. I'm going to fucking say it. A more interesting character than Batman.
What the hell?
Check.
Are you feeling okay?
No. Hear me out. Hear me out.
This
Moon Knight.
isn't Cesar Cordero. This is a variant.
Listen. Get him. Listen. Batman is good, but not as interesting as Moon Knight from a character perspective. What makes him good is that his rogues gallery is fucking fantastic, right? Meanwhile, Moon Knight has a lot of really interesting things, and his motivations are far more human than people maybe want to look at. But his rogues gallery sucks dog dick. So
yeah, it does.
That's the problem,
I
right?
can't even name it.
I was like, don't ask me.
All you got is fucking
Werewolf by Night?
Bushmaster,
Bushmaster.
and that's it. That's it. Like you're like, oh, and maybe Randall
Not
Spector,
even
his
like
brother.
the Surfing Society Bushmaster.
No.
Yeah. An off-brand.
It's Raoul.
Bushmaster.
No, it's Bushman. Not even Bushmaster. I think it's Raoul Bushman.
Bushman.
Oh, okay.
Like that sounds like a guy who runs a deli. You know what I mean? Like
More to our point.
yeah. Hi, it's me, Raoul Bushman. Good to see you.
I'll get you, Moon Knight.
I'll get you, Moon Knight, but first I'll get you the sub you ordered.
Oscar Isaac, though, man.
So anyway, yes, the trailer's good. But in the wake of this trailer, I have decided to make full use of the Marvel app. Oh, that hurts to say.
Oh, man.
And look, Butter, I understand.
I don't know why.
I don't know why it wouldn't hurt.
You're getting a great deal. You're getting a great deal.
Daddy, do you love me?
Oh, jeez.
Just do my
We're
best.
working through a lot of stuff here today.
Papa, can you hear me?
This is what happens when our recordings start exceeding almost 3 hours.
Oh, my God.
Papa, can you hear me? All right. So anyway, I've been reading the Vengeance of Moon Knight with Jerome Opeña and Hurwitz. God damn, that shit's delicious. Really good stuff. If you like Moon Knight, if you don't know anything about Moon Knight, perfect place to start. I also suggest the run that Brian Wood and Greg Smallwood did.
That Warren Ellis run was really cool.
Warren Ellis run's good too. Like it's definitely really, really, really fun stuff. You can always go back to the original Bill Sienkiewicz, Doug Mensch shit, which is amazing. But yeah, I recommend deep diving into Moon Knight because he's a really cool and interesting character. I'm also going to champion Book of Boba Fett because it's still continuously schlocky in the best way. It's clown shoes, but I like it.
And I ain't mad at the little Mandalorian score.
Oh,
they
dude!
hinted
So
at.
yeah, that was the Easter egg that I sent you. Did I send you that text where it was kind of like, oh yeah, they're teasing it,
Send
especially
in
with the music.
Din Djarin?
Yeah, the musical
Let's make it
Easter
happen.
eggs. You know.
Yeah.
Do 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 do.
Good stuff. Ashley, what about you? What are you going to champion today?
I watched a movie called, it was an Amazon Prime original movie. It was called The Electrical Life of Louis Wayne. And I think you guys, if you like cats, I think you would like it. It's about the British illustrator that kind of popularized cats. He was kind of crazy. Like, he thought that they were going to start like walking upright and that they would get, they'd be able to talk to people and stuff. But it was just a really charming movie. And you've seen the illustrations that he's done, but he kind of popularized cats as like a pet, not just something that you would keep around to like catch mice and stuff. It was really good. I was surprised how much I got into it. It has a Benedict Cumberbatch in it.
Oh,
That's who
hell yeah.
plays Lewis Wayne, so it was really good.
Fucking take my money.
That's cool.
Mhm.
That's a good pick, Ashley. Ed, what about you, man? What are you going to champion today?
I just got like a bunch of older comics this week off eBay, and I found one I've never seen before, but it's a Punisher by Garth Ennis and Richard Corbin.
What?
Yeah, man.
That's
Not
your
as
boy.
good as you think, but it's pretty awesome. It's basically, I guess there was a series the Max line was doing.
Oh boy, Max. Oh, Marvel Max. I
Yeah,
remember
so this was
you.
basically like everything nuclear war is hit and everything's just like a toxic wasteland. So it reminds me of like the best kind of low budget movie in the best ways. A lot of plot holes, a lot of things you just have to just go along the ride for.
Sure, why not?
'Cause, basically, the world's an apocalypse. Nuclear war is hit. There's only a handful of people left. And a Punisher comes out of this bomb shelter that was underneath this prison.
Of course he does.
Yeah, so he was there. They put him in there for some reason. And then he comes out and then he's doing this kind of going across New York to find this group called the Coven, which were these like group of rich people that kind of built their own like shelter to kind of revive humanity, but let everyone else die. So basically seeing Richard Corbin drawing this kind of nuclear wasteland with all these skeletons and stuff, and just really cool. This is like later work. This is like 2006, 2004, 6, somewhere like that. It's silly.
It's metal as fuck.
It's super metal as fuck. I'll have to bring it in and show it to you.
Is everything okay at home, Ed?
Oh, it's great. Never better.
Dude, all you said was Marvel Max, and all I thought of was, Marvel Max. Luke Cage, butt fuck Jessica Jones.
Not as explicit as you would think, but yeah.
All right, for my champion this week, I just got one, and that is the new. They're doing a Cuphead.
That's right. Netflix,
cartoon.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Netflix announced on Tuesday.
That's just
this
probably
week
going to be rated R.
that it's. I guess it's been like some years in the making, but they're dropping a show based on the Cuphead video game. It'll premiere February 18th, which is kind of right around the corner, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you've played or rage quit Cuphead,
yep,
it should come as no surprise that the game's, the artwork, the hand-drawn animation inspired by 1930s cartoons and jazz age cartoons of, like Max Fletcher, would make an obvious candidate for an eventual TV series. You got a lot of familiar characters from the side scroller making an appearance.
Satan.
Yeah, you got Cuphead.
Fucking
You got his brother Mugman. You got the upcoming new character Miss Chalice, and of course some of the game's most iconic bosses are making an appearance.
Her name's Miss Chalice.
Yeah, she's supposed to show up on in the DLC that they've been hinting at for what feels like years.
Is she like a Miss Pac-Man character?
Yeah, something like that. Miss Chalice.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine.
And then, fun, interesting tidbit: Wayne Brady is voicing the diabolical King Dice in the series as well.
Oh my god!
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Racism.
I hope we, I hope we get a Dave
Ashy Larry
Chappelle style Wayne Brady.
We're coming up a bit light on these. Is Wayne Brady gonna have to choke a bitch?
The game's creators, of course, will serve as executive producers on the series, alongside various animation producers and talent that have worked on other shows.
Wait.
Like
Who are? So you said the game developers are the executive producers?
No, the game creators.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Are going to be executive producers.
Jesus, they got money like that, huh?
Like that. And then you've got other like producers and talent that have worked on shows like the Mickey Mouse shorts, Rocko's Modern Life, and as well as SpongeBob, working on this series as well.
Cool.
Like I said, February 18th, the trailer dropped. It's like a good linked trailer too, like 2.5 minutes, so you could really get a feel for it. It looks fantastic. It's got me excited. And with that being said, those are my recommendations. And since this segment is brought to you by Black Hive Tattoo,
we can't say anything bad about them. Wait, what?
Not at all.
What? Why would you bring that up, Potter?
Help us pay the bills.
Weird.
Yeah.
Nick Wagner, the head honcho of Black Hive himself, is finally back this week.
Hey.
Yeah.
And he's going to give us one last recommendation to close out this segment. Here it is.
Hey guys, this is Nick Wagner from Black Hive Tattoo with this week's pick from us at the shop. We're all watching this new show on Netflix called Archive 81. It's a creepy, slow burn. Definitely has some hints of Lovecraftian horror. Definitely not for the impatient. Good cinematography, but it's a watcher. You cannot put it on the background. Like, if you're going to watch it, watch it. Really enjoying it. Not quite done with it. Hope it ends as well as it started. All right. Have a good week.
I love that man's voice.
It's definitely something else.
Sure that wasn't Apple TV?
Nah,
I don't
look
know.
at that.
I don't know.
Netflix this time.
Oh, wow.
He's appealing to the common man in all of us, right?
Yeah, not that bougie Ted Lasso shit.
Look, for the last
Yes, I
time.
watched Ted Lasso.
Quite the opposite.
He's a football coach coaching soccer. Wow.
Hey, don't they call football soccer in other
That's
countries?
crazy.
Yeah, Ashley, I'm never going to let you live this down.
Yes. Have you watched Ted Lasso recently? Me and my lovely wife caught up with it while we were watching the boat. We had a rosé and toasted to our success while watching Ted Lasso.
I'm getting us the fuck out of here. All right, folks. Those were our recommendations for Champion Season. Ed, Ashley, Cesar, you guys know the deal by now. You don't get to go back to your loved ones until we leave the Short Box Station.
Shit.
With some words of wisdom.
I always forget about this.
Before we close this thing out, which it needs to be closed out ASAP. We're starting to get delusional funny. Like, delusional.
We're at sleepover funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like, everything's funny.
Before we close this out, I want each of you to tell me something you learned this episode or share some parting words. Ashley, I'm going to start with you. What do you want to share today?
Well, I'll share something that I did not know about Jim Lee. I think anyone had 9 children nowadays.
Yo, fucking, that's why he's hustling.
I know.
That's why he's fucking rich and he's fucking, guys, I have 9 fucking children.
My power bill alone.
What do you think Didio's living under a bridge now? He's gone.
Stop. No, he's not.
Damn, man.
He's sitting here like,
he's not diabolical.
Once you finish that OMAX series, you go under the bridge with you.
Damn.
Done.
Thank you, Ashley. And what about you? What do you got to share?
Oh man, I don't think I brought it up, but I did learn something about Jim Lee. That he got run over by a truck when he was a little kid.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where do you learn this?
It was an interview.
Huh.
And he did this interview for
oh, that's awesome.
Like a Korean based Korean American YouTube channel. They interview, different Koreans in like the creative arts. So he told me that was like, because they asked him what his memories were when he was in South Korea, because he didn't move to the States till he was 5. So they're asking him if he had any vivid memories. And he said that was the one memory he has, was getting run over by a truck, but not by the tires. He just kind of under the axles. So he just had some stitches. He's okay. So that was pretty interesting.
I feel like I need to start vetting these
Hey man, this is your segment.
That was funny. All right, see, what about you, man?
Honestly, I think the more we talk about artists and the way we do these spotlights, I think I personally take away a sense of gratitude and respect. And I learn that I'm oftentimes probably took for granted a lot of the art that I grew up with, because I didn't know what I had. I didn't know how amazing it was when I was little. I just assimilated it and just made it a part of my formative self. So
you can't do that in the moment, though.
No, I'm not saying I regret it. I'm glad I did. I'm just saying, as we do these artist spotlights, I think it's cool that we get to revisit and get to come back and sort of like, steep in that sort of like, in basically what, sometimes these large companies tend to gloss over as just small cogs in a machine. And we actually take we take a flashlight and we turn it on and say, look here, pay attention to this, So I think it's cool that
getting to see like the forest for the trees, like I think comes to mind.
Right. Like that's something that I think that I learned, is that a lot of people tend to not see the forest for the trees. And when they start thinking in terms of brand and in terms of loyalty to a thing, they tend to leave out the small cogs. But careful, cog might come back and maybe just decide to fart out a sketch and donate $800,000 to charity and not to your fucking pocket.
Well said.
Yeah, Didio.
What Jesus? What's with Didio, man?
What's going on at home?
For real. I was just saying.
For real.
Just saying, it was pretty convenient. After he got let go.
Hashtag Ed is the only...
He's sitting on that throne of swords.
Is there a comic
DC.
book QAnon?
All right, well, I'll keep my parting words Jim Lee related as well. Going back to the topic of his upbringing and his relationship with his parents. You know, his parents were the ones that put up the money for him to go to college with the expectation of him becoming a doctor. And like we said, he got his bachelor's and was on the way to med school, decided to divert the plan. But he would later on go back and pay them back all the money they spent on college, which apparently he wrote them a check. And I don't know at what point, I'm assuming at the height of his career making millions doing comics, but he wrote them a check for $63,000 and said, hey, sorry about, med school.
I never want to see you again.
Yeah. Which is such a baller thing to do.
It's pretty cool.
That's cool. That is cool.
But I can only imagine the tears that my parents would probably weep if I ever passed a fucking $63,000 check.
Don't hold your breath. No, but it's funny because he even said, like, I think I was like, I failed as like a Korean son because I didn't become a doctor. Yeah. I didn't learn an instrument.
And to add to that, he does make a joke on his Fat Man on Batman interview, which I think is fantastic if you could find it. He does make a joke that, and then I married a white woman.
Yes,
and even then he was like, my parents were like, God damn, Jim.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Can you get 1 out of 3? Nothing.
So there you have it, Shortbox Nation. Thank you for hanging out this week, all right? Tell us what you thought about this episode and hit up our DMs on Instagram or Twitter.
Also, thank you for sticking with us for so long. We've been recording for like 3 hours, and if you're still with us, you should have left after the first break. Oh, don't you have a life?
Some people, surprisingly, kind of find us funny.
Kind of.
But look, I want you guys to hit us up, listen to what you thought about this episode, or send us a question for our Q&A episode that we're doing for the 350th episode. That'll be
poor fools.
In about 3 weeks. All right, let's have some fun. And just a heads up, we are taking a much-needed break, especially after this episode. We're taking a break.
You fucking 3 hours, you chodes.
We're taking a break next week.
What do you want? Blood from a stone?
Yeah, we're taking a break next week. We'll be back the following week for a guest interview with Bill Morrison. He's the co-founder of Bongo Comics and had a big hand in a lot of the Simpsons and Futurama comics published by the company. Of course, if that's too long for you to wait, or if you somehow did not get your Shortbox fill this episode and you just need more Shortbox content to fill your time with, consider becoming a Patreon subscriber of the podcast and get access to all of our bonus episodes, like our spin-off podcast series, Pilot's License. If you love classic comic book cartoons and animated shows like the ones we mentioned earlier, as much as we do, this series is for you. We just released an episode talking about the 90s Spider-Man animated series, and you can hear that when you go to patreon.com/Shortbox to sign up, or just click the link in our show notes. We're also going to be doing another artist spotlight poll for our next installment. Ed's going to be supplying the nominees for that. I think we landed on famous comic book couples. So we'll do a spotlight on that.
Right. Cool.
For the next artist spotlight. In the meantime, stay up to date with what we got going on by following us on social media. But most importantly, take care of yourselves. Have a great day. And please continue to make mine and yours Shortbox. Talk to you soon, all right? Peace.